All right, good morning. Happy Friday. It is September 5th, 2025. Nice to have you here up on Lake Wissota for a fine little radio program that we'll do for the next 3 hours for you, starting 5 minutes away, 6:06 across the Civic Media Radio Network. We will, of course, be talking about the opening of the NFL season, Packers opening up against Detroit at Lambeau Field on Sunday. We'll talk to Mike Clemens about the games, but let's get to the other important stuff, the food. What kind of food they're going to be serving at Lambeau Field. We'll talk about that as well. We'll talk to Dr. Kristin Lyerly about yesterday's unique congressional hearings featuring Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. That's safe for radio. I got all of 4 minutes to figure it out. And of course, our week in review panel will talk more about the week's events as well. We'll get the updated weekend forecast from Brittany Merlot and more. So hang around. 4 minutes from now, we'll get started across the Civic Media Radio Network and right here. See you soon.
Wide range of impacts. Businesses can avoid paying payroll taxes and unemployment, and they don't have to provide health and safety benefits. Larry Statz owns his contracting business. He says companies that misclassify their employees are saving so much money, they're able to undercut businesses who are following the law, like his.
More and more competitors have adopted the illegal business model of misclassification, where they mislabel their actual workers as independent contractors. They avoid paying taxes, Social Security, workman's comp, and unemployment benefits, a responsibility that honest employers like us take on every day.
This package of bills would also reinstate prevailing wage laws. Republicans repealed Wisconsin's in 2015. All 60 Democrats in the state assembly and state senate have signed on to these bills. However, because they don't have the majority, they're unlikely to go anywhere without Republican support. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, 92.7 WMDX News.
The Brewers in Pittsburgh. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. Baseball. The Brewers begin a road trip tonight against the Pirates. Milwaukee losing to the Phillies yesterday, 2-0. Starter Freddie Peralta pitched another 5 scoreless innings. He's not allowed a run since early August, but the Brewers could not score a run. Manager Pat Murphy.
Yeah, Freddie was great. He did what he had to do. He threw 5 shutout innings, and he was masterful. Ton of strikeouts. Gave up 2 hits, gets a really good lineup, gave us a chance to win.
NFL, the Packers holding practice today, getting ready for Sunday's season opener against the Lions. College football, the Badgers host Middle Tennessee State tomorrow afternoon at 3. Backup Danny O'Neal will get his first start at quarterback.
Sometimes the enemy of being great is really good. And I think that that's where I think he needs to take some of those next steps, that he is a ball player. He's got a confidence level that's legitimate.
That's the Badgers head coach Luke Fickell with sports. I'm Mike Clemens.
Local news, weather, and sports on air and streaming on the Civic Media app. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
It is going to be mostly cloudy today and very windy with a high in the upper 50s to near 60 this afternoon. Tonight, mostly cloudy. We're going to drop into the low to mid 40s for a low. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and not as windy with a high right around 63. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Outside now, it's 55.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel.
Public schools and private schools, when the people who are sitting to the left and to the right of me in classes, and when the professors and the TAs and the staff don't all look the same, education is promoted. You get a better sense of what the world is all about. We know that also because our Supreme Court has said so. Brown versus Board of Education, Brown versus Board of Education 2.
Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel. Saturday mornings from 9 to 11.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for youth.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs.
And dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development through their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media.
across Wisconsin on Civic Media. You're listening to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. Now, from our Lake Wissota studio, here is the founding editor of Up North News, Pat Kreitlow.
Well, hey there, Wisconsin. Good morning. It is Friday morning, September 5th, 2025, 6:06 in the morning. It's another beautiful morning to have you here up north, live from Lake Wissota, from wherever you're spending your Friday morning, listening across the Civic Media Radio Network, or listening to us or watching us on social media or through other platforms. And yeah, Alicia says, with lots of exclamation points on YouTube, it's Friday. It is finally Friday. And some of us could not be happier about that, even though it was a short work week. Short, but still packed. You know the rule. No good holiday goes unpunished, or vacation day or anything like that. So we've had a lot to pack into 4 days, and we're going to share some of it with you this morning. Let's see. Our week in review panel, of course, will be here. That includes former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, journalists Jennifer Schulze and Mark Jacob. We would normally hear from Akia Vakil from Courier Newsroom. He's continuing on with his vacation this week, so we will hear from him more next week. We will, of course, have Mike Clemens along to talk sports. Dr. Kristin Lyerly will join us as well. She had her knee replaced a little over a week ago. We'll ask her how things are going on that front. Apparently the doctor's not being an entirely compliant patient. So, we'll talk about that a little bit as well. And we'll talk to Parker Olson, because somebody's got to produce this thing. Somebody's got to babysit the host. And he's down there in Madison at Studio A2, watching over things for us with, I believe, some Badger Red on there for today.
Of course. Yeah. Why not?
Well, because you would otherwise be in Packers green and gold. So, I mean,
that's also true, but that's Sunday.
Yeah.
So you can only prepare one day ahead.
I get that. Okay. So
what you do is you celebrate the win by wearing Packer green and gold on Monday.
Oh, I did not realize there was established protocol for this.
Oh, yes.
I got it. Okay.
And I spend my Saturdays in purple while I watch Whitewater.
I was going to say, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
We're close to Vikings territory, but let's keep it at Whitewater purple, shall we? All right.
Yeah.
Well, while we're mentioning the Badgers, they will be playing their second game of the season against Middle Tennessee tomorrow. Coverage begins at 1:00 tomorrow afternoon on several Civic Media stations. And then on Sunday is the Packer game against Detroit. Pregame starts also at 1:00. And some of those stations are different between the Packers and the Badgers. So head over to Civic Media to learn more about that. It's going to be a busy one here. Alicia putting up on YouTube, I heard somewhere doctors aren't good patients. Sometimes it's very true. So we'll talk to Dr. Lyerly about that. Brewers were losers yesterday, even though Freddie Peralta did a really nice job, but they were shut out. And if the season hadn't been going as well as it had, that might be a little bit more, I don't know, not depressing, but it's never great to get shut out, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
No, it's not, because when you have a pitcher that gives your team an incredibly good chance at winning a game, especially with the bullpen that we've got going on right now, you would think that two wouldn't win a game, but.
And there were plenty of chances. The Brewers had runners in scoring position many times, and some games you can't get a run across.
I believe the stat was the Brewers were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position.
Yeah, that sounds about right here. And no, here it is. Milwaukee was 0 for 10 with runners.
Oh, yeah, because we didn't score.
Well, but I mean,
thinking about yesterday.
Didn't even get a hit here. The Brewers, like I said, they threatened a couple of times. Freddie Peralta extended his scoreless inning streak to 29. He has pitched 29 scoreless innings in a row. The record, by the way, for those of you haven't heard this name for a while, but it's going to make you feel good if you're an older Brewers fan like me. Teddy Higuera set the record of 32 scoreless innings consecutively back in 1987. I haven't heard Teddy Higuera's name in a long time. Anyway, fastball Freddie struck out 8. He allowed 3 walks and 2 hits, throwing 92 pitches over 5 innings. And, again, 2-0 shouldn't be insurmountable, but not if you can't score with runners, in scoring position. So the Brewers now head to Pittsburgh and open up a 3-game series there. You can catch again those games across the Civic Media Radio Network. Brewers and Pirates, 5:05 is the pregame start for getting started. And by the way, speaking of the Brewers, it's Free Ticket Friday.
You're telling me there's a chance.
I'm telling you, there's a chance that you could win tickets to a Brewers game. And because it's Friday, we'll give you a keyword. You'll have until 9 a.m. to use the Civic Media app to send it in to us. And I'm going to keep you hanging for about 7-8 minutes more here to get the keyword. But that gives you time to either download the Civic Media app or just have it handy. Get it ready to go. Get to the radio stations. Actually, any of them will do, but preferably the ones broadcasting this program. And then use the text feature to text us the keyword that I'm going to give you in just a little bit. And so use the text feature for that. But there's also a voice note feature where you can leave us a message, an audio message, and, say something nice about Parker, or tell us what you're doing this weekend, or because we're still marking Build a Better Breakfast Month, you can tell us what you're making for breakfast. I already mentioned my accidental breakfast, thanks to dropping some of the eggs and having to scramble those up very quickly. But this show is extremely pro breakfast. And not just because it's an early morning show. There's plenty of people who, even though they work an early morning show, they only eat like fruit roll-ups for breakfast or something like that. No, Parker, you over here.
Who could you ever be talking about? Who would do such a stupid thing?
I'm not saying it's stupid. I'm just saying you're not.
I'm saying it's stupid. Pat. I will admit that what I am doing is stupid.
You're not. You're not a
I should eat significantly better.
Yeah. It's just one of those things I like to make, except on Fridays. By Fridays, I'm just like, okay, let's just get through the day. Let's get out the Roy Kent mug, as I have here traditionally on Fridays.
There you go.
Again, patron saint of the show, because he can say things we can't say on the radio, and get through our Friday that way. So again, Brewers were losers 2-0. Head out to Pittsburgh, and Free Ticket Friday chances are coming up in just a sec. Any big plans for the weekend for you?
Big plans for the weekend. Actually, about as big as my plans will ever get. We'll be heading down to Whitewater, going to the football game, as I do on Saturdays now in the fall. What else we got? I think I might be staying over with a couple of buddies there, and then back home Sunday, watch some Packers. That's all I need. You might notice a theme here. My weekends revolve around football.
Well, that just makes you, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, normal. You're a normal person, which is so not only do people talk about football, as far as the game, the teams on the field, but it is an experience, and that experience includes food. And that takes us to the Up North News daily newsletter. You can sign up for it at upnorthnewswi.com, and you can find out what's being served up at Lambeau Field this year.
Cheese curds?
Well, probably. But I'm talking like the higher end stuff.
Like mac and cheese.
Higher than that even. Specifically, I'm looking at something that's on our website from the USA Today Network, initially reported by Jalissa Burns of the Appleton Post-Crescent and the Green Bay Press-Gazette, about the foods that you can get at Lambeau Field this year, starting with the home opener. And again, that is this Sunday at 3:25. That's when the kickoff is. 1 o'clock start of the pregame. Where do we want to start here? We've got a cheese theme here. How about a grilled cheese with summer sausage?
Oh,
yeah, sourdough bread, Havarti cheese, summer sausage, and a little garlic herb cream that's on there as well.
That's awesome.
It sounds really tasty, and because you're buying it in a stadium, it's $15. So the $15 grilled cheese sandwich, but it's, shall we say, a higher end one.
Yeah.
I'll save you $1 for $14. You can get chicken nuggets. Not just any chicken nuggets. They are football shaped, cheese-infused chicken nuggets.
Yeah, I can go with that. Okay.
Cheese-infused, football-shaped chicken nuggets that you can get for just $14 if you like. Let's see. There's also a brat with sauerkraut slaw, including Swiss sauce. because again, you got to put cheese in everything. That brat will set you back $12. There's the brat show. It's like a nacho, but it's a brat show, and it's not nachos made with corn tortilla chips. It's made with tater tots. So it's basically tater tots served nacho style with sliced bratwurst coins on there, along with beer cheese, sour cream, guacamole, green onions. That'll only set you back $12.
Hey, is that the cheapest thing we've heard so far?
It is, because you could go for the loaded big pretzel. It's a big Bavarian pretzel,
Love a
sharp,
big pretzel.
sharp cheddar cheese sauce, crumbled brats on it, along with fried sauerkraut, beer cheese mustard sauce, and beer mustard. But that'll set you back $20 to get your
Yeah,
loaded
that's
pretzel.
yeah.
Yep. We're just making for folks that didn't make breakfast. You might want to after we get done telling you about all this food here. Let's see. There's the tenderloin steak sandwich, which is a roasted beef tenderloin, bourbon brown sugar onions, roasted mushrooms, and A1 aioli on a corn dusted Kaiser roll.
Oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, that's going to set you back $26. Just so you're aware. There is fried chicken, pickles, and coleslaw on a King's Hawaiian roll. The green and gold barbecue chicken sandwich will set you back $14. There's a barbecue pull apart, again with your King's Hawaiian rolls with barbecued pulled pork and sweet and spicy pickles on there.
Okay.
That's
I'm a sucker for pulled pork.
$20. And here's one I'd be interested in trying, perhaps, would be brat egg rolls. Because again, we got to put brats or cheese in everything. So these would be crumbled brats, a little fajita mix, cheese curds, cream cheese, all as part of an egg roll. And that'll set you back $13 at the Johnsonville Tailgate Village there. There's a meatball sub. There's a hot Italian sub. There's a bento box with beef or chicken, fried rice, kimchi, cucumber salad, egg rolls, and a custom fortune cookie. I'm sorry, who's getting a bento box at the Packer game?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like the place for that. Also, custom fortune cookie? I want to know what that is.
I'm sure what it means is that all the fortunes are related to the Packer game, the football game, things like that. So
Okay.
not your standard stuff that you could get off of a Magic 8 Ball, you know.
Sure. I was envisioning like a green and gold cookie.
No. So there's and then of course there are chicken wings, and there's gelato cups as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's some of the higher end fare that you can find at Lambeau Field if you're of a mind to that. I don't know if I've like I said, I've only been to a couple of Packer games, and I'm extremely focused on the game. It's why you do the tailgating. You fill up ahead of time, you know.
Yeah, I hate going to things and missing the thing. So
yeah, don't miss the thing. All right, coming up in just a couple of moments, we're going to give you the keyword for Free Ticket Friday, and we'll cover some of the day's headlines as we start to cover things on a Friday morning from the heart of America's up north, live from Lake Wissota. Thanks for making this the place to spend a part of your morning. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. All right, as promised, it's Free Ticket Friday. Your chance to win 4 great club-level seats to American Family Field to see a future Brewers game, a specific game that I'll tell you about in just a sec, along with the keyword. Again, one more time, text us through the Civic Media app, a keyword until 9 a.m. Then there will be different keywords throughout today, more chances to win, and one of those statewide entries will be drawn to win 4 great seats to see the Brewers take on the St. Louis Cardinals next week, Saturday, September 13th. That's a night game, Saturday night game, 7:15 next Saturday. So if you can go to a Brewers Cardinals game next Saturday, September 13th, that evening, if you can get electronic tickets on your phone and use them at the field, well, you should try to win these 4 tickets. And to do that, from now until 9 o'clock, the keyword to send in is the word base. B-A-S-E, like first base, second base, third base, base, B-A-S-E is the keyword from now until 9 a.m. to get those 4 tickets to see the Brewers taking on the Cardinals next Saturday, September 13th. So base, B-A-S-E is the keyword that you want to send in this morning. Tony asks on YouTube, hey, is this the Up North podcast? And then, of course, he says, just kidding. But he knows exactly where I'm going next on this. And it's just to offer a bit of clarification, because Up North News, for all of our many fine qualities, has a generic-ish name. Up North is seen and heard in a lot of places. And so, that's been a kind of our occupational hazard at Up North News. One of the things we did was we squished all the words together. Up North News, it's all one word in our logo, and try to differentiate ourselves that way. We cover all of Wisconsin. We are America's Up North, all of Wisconsin. But people still hear and see Up North, and they think it's just an area, say, around, I don't know, Minocqua, and the Minocqua Brewing Company, which is run by Kirk Bangstead. Well, Kirk, once upon a time, several years back now, wanted to do a podcast, and he asked if I would help out, and I was happy to do that. This was long before Civic Media came along. And in a shameless attempt at a little bit of promotion, I said, why don't you call it the Up North Podcast? And then I'll mention Up North News a few times. You mentioned Minocqua Brewing Company. Okay, fine. We did that for a while there, a little over a year, I believe. And then Kirk wanted to concentrate more on the brewing business. And I had this wonderful opportunity to come to Civic Media and bring Up North News to everybody through the radio waves. And so we were Up North News Radio for the first couple of years. And then we changed the name earlier this year to Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News. So the Up North is all still out there. So looking at Facebook yesterday, and Kirk posts on the Minocqua Brewing Company page a lot of what they're doing, and it's a lot of political activity, organization, communication, things like that. But he also, along with sending out daily emails and things like that, holding certain events, he is going back into doing his podcast. And so he said that he was announcing the return of the Up North podcast. And that's fine. He's going to do that. Let's see. And I forget if it's Tuesday or Wednesday evenings coming up soon here. He's going to get that started. And they'll talk politics, of course, but I know they'll talk music and other things as well. And I made sure to put a comment on that post from our Facebook page, the Mornings with Pat Kreitlow Facebook page, to let people know the same thing that I'm letting you know, is that there will be, again, this podcast called the Up North Podcast. And it is not the same as Up North News. The two are different. Kirk does his thing in his own way. We do our thing in our own way over here. And so we just wanted to make sure that there wasn't going to be any confusion between the two, because it is admittedly, a generic sounding term. But again, when you hear about the renewal of the Up North Podcast, and if you want to subscribe to that, that's great. But we'd also love it if you continued to follow Up North News and, what used to be Up North News Radio, which is now Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered with Up North News, that you can hear as a podcast. Head over to Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you're following this particular one so that you don't miss any of our shows along the way. So again, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast, and follow our show here. And then you can determine if you want to follow the Up North podcast from the Minocqua Brewing Company as well. Looking at some of the other stories making news here, they include a note that one of the former legislators, Jocasta Zamarripa, is going to be running for Secretary of State in the state of Wisconsin. And that's the post that is currently held by Sarah Godlewski, but she has now decided to run for lieutenant governor. And so Jocasta Zamarripa, who's now serving the city of Milwaukee, is going to be running. So again, we've got another one of these open races where there will be new faces in 2026, and there's lots of time for more candidates to come out, both Democratic and Republican, who will be running. And we'll just try to keep you updated on them as best we can as all of these candidates come about. So keep an eye out for that. Jocasta, by the way, when I said serving the city, I should say she represents the south side of the city on the Common Council, was previously in the state legislature, and said she'd been eyeing to run for lieutenant governor before Sarah Godlewski made her announcement, and now is likely to file to run for Secretary of State instead. So that's, again, ballots are just slowly but surely coming together for the 2026 election. Coming up is today's history lesson, including a little history about the Muppet Show, the past and potentially the future of the Muppet Show. Thanks for spending some time here as part of your mornings powered by Up North News. Again, Up North News, upnorthnewswi.com. More after the Midwest Farm Report here on the Civic Media Radio Network. Hey, Greg Bach is here, boys and girls.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're a little hot there.
Okay, hold on. How about now?
It's still a little hot.
How about now?
Still hot. Might want to just back off the mic a touch here.
My mic's all the way down.
Okay. You.
Okay.
I was listening to Greg. He was sounding very hot on his audio here. So before I make any adjustments here, Greg's going to finish any adjustments he wants to make over there.
Still hot?
Yeah. So let me turn this down here. All right. Try again.
How about now?
What do you think there, Parker?
Because my microphone is turned all the way down right now in my headphones.
Okay. In StreamYard, I'm turning it down
now?
a lot. Okay. Now,
How about
are you,
now?
Parker, are you playing with it too? Oh, we can't both be doing it. So, all right. Greg, say something again.
Now?
Come up just a little bit, Parker, and then we should be good to go. All right. 10 seconds. This is the animals from 61 years ago today, 1964, when they had a #1 hit with House of the Rising Sun. And if I would have hit it just right, if I'd have hit the ramp out of the intro, I would have gone to Greg Bach immediately, and he would have done his best Eric Burton impression. But we're going to let Greg get disconnected and reconnected and come join us as he does on Friday mornings here on our history lesson. So while we have the animals in the background, let me tell you something that happened this day in 1906, when St. Louis University quarterback Brad Robinson threw the first legal forward pass in NCAA football history while playing Carroll College in Waukesha. St. Louis would go on to win 22-0. The forward pass had just been legalized in 1906 as a safety measure due to the high amount of injuries to runners. They thought passing would be a kinder, gentler way to play football, Greg Bach. Not really thinking what's going to happen to the wide receiver who's looking up and trying to catch this football before being completely pummeled. Mr. Bach, how are you?
I'm doing well. Can you hear me now?
I hear you great now. Yes.
Okay. There we go. Technology.
Technology ain't nothing like it. So,
yeah.
How are you? Did you have a good Labor Day weekend? And I know you've been flying solo here with Jane on a break. So, how have things been?
Been really good. Been talking to a lot of great people. This Labor Day weekend was pretty packed. We were celebrating my mother-in-law's 80th birthday, so there was that, and there was a lot going on. There's still some celebration this weekend, but yeah, it's by the time Monday rolled around 3:30, I said to myself, "Can I go to bed? Can I go to bed right now?" Because I feel justified. I feel like I earned this. So,
oh, absolutely.
The shows have been great. The shows have been wonderful. We're having a really good time, having great discussions with people, really just having fun. And I hope if Jane can hear, I hope Jane can hear this, because I hope she's resting and relaxing somewhere, doing a thing, vacating.
Let's hope. When is she due back?
She'll be back a week from Monday.
Okay. So we get another week of Greg solo?
You do indeed. But it's not just me. I got Angela Lang will be co-hosting. Dan Schaefer is going to be stopping by. Just next week, the guests are I can't even think of them right. I know I'm talking to Rick Reed from Fox Valley Technical College about the economy. We're going to be talking about the impact of the closure of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting with Native Public Media. It's going to be a great week.
Wow, you are going to be a busy one. All right, we should move on music-wise and wish a happy birthday to Al Stewart, the Scottish singer-songwriter, is 78 years old today.
Ooh.
From John on YouTube, or from Tony on YouTube, it says Greg had a great conversation with John Shelton the other day about unions.
Yes.
We had John on a little bit before that. That's really all you need to say. Is anytime you hear John Shelton's going to be on, just clear the decks and listen in.
Yeah.
I think I understand the clean shavenness or the recent clean shavenness, seeing that on this day in 1698, Russian Tsar Peter the Great imposed a tax on beards. There's a new one for you. Okay. You weren't looking to avoid a tax on beards. Okay.
We
clarify that.
We won't make billionaires pay, but we'll make hipsters.
Yes, hipsters must pay. Let's see. The first gasoline pump was delivered to a dealer in Fort Wayne, Indiana, this day in 1885. And the first Jerry Lewis telethon for muscular dystrophy was held this day in 1966.
I remember watching those when I was a kid.
The late great Freddie Mercury of Queen was born this day in 1946. Freddie Mercury passing away in 1991. The late Bob Newhart was born this day in 1929. He passed away, of course, July of last year.
Sure. That was a heartbreaker.
The anniversary of the birth of singer-songwriter, the late Jon Stewart, born this day in 1939. Now, he was part of the Kingston Trio once upon a time. He also wrote the Monkees' #1 hit, Daydream Believer. And, of course, then he had this top 5 hit, Gold, with Stevie Nicks. Again, 1939, Jon Stewart was born, passed away in 2008. Let's see. Let's skip ahead here to the Muppet Show, because it was on this day. Actually, let me ask Greg. The original Muppet Show. Do you know what year it premiered?
Like 1975.
Ooh, very close. 1976. Get it, Parker.
So great.
Oh, that guest roster was such a who's who, you know.
Back in the 70s, people were entertained by such art.
Yes. So imagine my surprise, Greg, to see that there's a news item, a rumor, the headline, Seth Rogen reportedly bringing back the Muppet Show. And the article says, is it time to play the music and light the lights with Seth Rogen on the Muppet Show tonight? The latest Hollywood rumors suggest the iconic TV series might be making a comeback, but not on Disney Plus or ABC. Apparently, there are talks in progress right now that may hint at a revival. Now, I know ABC tried to, remember they had Muppets Tonight or something a couple of years ago?
They had a show that was like an Office type of mockumentary.
Yeah.
And halfway through, they realized it wasn't working, so they changed it completely and then just canceled it.
And I now again, I am all Muppets all the time. So
Yeah.
I was happy with it. I was happy with the little short retorts and things, you know.
Yeah.
But obviously it wasn't working well enough. And I'm not going to, I mean, I would not detract from Seth Rogen in any way, shape, or form. I just wouldn't call myself a big fan either.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm wondering, do you think Seth Rogen could pull this off?
Well, I think look, I don't want to say I'm a Muppets purist, but like the Muppets, like their purpose is for family entertainment, for fun. And I think if you like, one of the reasons why I think this reboot of the Muppets didn't work long ago was they tried to put it into an adult vernacular. And I don't mean like dirty. I just mean like adults, and it just didn't work. There's got to be a kid-friendly component to it all. Mm-hmm. So if you're bringing back the Muppet Show, I would say just bring it back the way it was with new guests and have fun and be innocent and funny and just appeal to all ages. But yeah, that's the only way I could see it.
I love when you feed right into the things I've been saying before about the variety show. And we just don't have the variety show anymore. The late night shows, those aren't actual variety shows. And I don't mean like America's Got Talent, you know, I'm talking actual variety shows with established acts, not just music, but comedy, performance, and all of that. And if the Muppets are the way that we get to it, then I'm here for it, because I know it sounds like maybe some people think it's a distinction without a difference, but there's a big difference between doing something that is mostly for the kids, but the adults can watch it because it throws a bone to the adults now and then, as opposed to, well, we're going to do something for the adults, but we'll make it safe enough for the kids. That's not the same thing, you know?
I think there's no better example of that than the first Lego movie. When you watch the Lego movie, that film has so many jokes that works for everybody. And there are some jokes that adults get just because of the language, and not bad language, just the way the jokes are structured. But it's not like Shrek or Shrek 2, where there's a layer of jokes for kids, a layer of joke for adults. It's the Lego movie is just for all people. And I think that's like a great example of comedy for all.
And you know that at the time when I walked out of there, I took my grandsons, and I'm like, I think I like that as much or more than they did, you know, but we all enjoyed it very much. All right. So we'll see if that comes back or not. I got one more birthday here. Terry Ellis, one of the co-founders of En Vogue, is 62 years old today. Love that song. Again, Terry Ellis, 62 years old today. On this day in 1977, NASA launched Voyager 1. Its original mission was a flyby of Jupiter and Saturn, later included Uranus, let it go, and Neptune. And then in 2012, it became the first human-made object to leave the solar system. And sometime next year, it will finally be one light day away. And it will need another 40,000 years to reach the nearest star. Just in case you're wondering, how big is space?
When people talk about like aliens invading, it's like they might be still on their way here.
Yeah, we'll be there soon.
We're
coming.
Be a while.
Yep. Hot take by Tony up in Ashland. Lego Batman may be the greatest movie ever.
Lego Batman took me a moment. I had to watch that like twice before I enjoy. There's nothing. Will Arnett as Batman is just like listening to Will Arnett speak. So I was just like, Will Arnett's just being Will Arnett right now. But I got on board. I still love the first Lego movie the best, and then Lego Batman. But yeah, I get it.
To this day, because of Will Arnett's Batman, we still refer to computers around here as pewter. whenever he's calling for the computer, he'd be like, pewter, and make your command or whatever. So he'd be like, hey, bring me the pewter. We're weirdos here. What can I tell you? Back to Voyager 1, and a spoiler alert from a movie that's like 40 years old. So sorry, but it was the first Star Trek movie. And remember how they were fighting this machine, this alien life form, and they come to find out it was called V'ger. Everybody called it V'ger, and they finally got close enough to look at it, and it was Voyager. But of course, some dust on the letters and everything. But it had soaked up like all of the knowledge of the universe and was this threat to the Enterprise. And the whole time figuring out it was just Voyager, this little satellite that we launched. It was a blow your mind moment. But again, that was 40 years ago. Because I can see how unimpressed the two of you are right now with that plot.
Hey Pat, if my mom was here right now, she would be all over. She would take the phone out of my hand and just run with this conversation.
Absolutely. She'd say, right? Ah.
Well, actually, Pat, what you don't understand about that film is when it was
on the day calendar today, this is International Day of Charity, and this is National Food Bank Day as well. Do you have some good plans for the weekend?
More celebrations with the family for my mom-in-law's 80th. We're going to go see a play on Sunday. We're going to go see Dial M for Murder at Drury Lane in Illinois. And then tomorrow we're going to go to like an arts fair in Kenosha. I'm really I'm throwing it to a plug for the show today. I'm looking forward to our discussion with Lieutenant Dianne Feinstein about Trump's attacks on cashless bail. So that's going to be a good conversation.
Oh, that will be nice.
That's going to be at 9:35.
Tune in to Matt and Aaron Air from 9 to 11 this morning. Greg Bach, thank you so much. Always great having you on Fridays. Have a wonderful weekend.
Bye, guys.
All right. See you later. And a reminder, again, free ticket Friday. You could win tickets to next weekend's game, Brewers against St. Louis, 7:15 p.m. game. But you got to text us, BASE, B-A-S-E, using the Civic Media app. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Ooh, look at him timing out the music just so.
Look at that. Look at that. So profesh.
I know.
Parker, did you get a haircut?
He got him all cut. Okay. And
I got all my haircuts.
okay. So we're going to work on that microphone thingy over there.
Well, no, actually, I won't be working on this microphone thing. I will just be setting a new alarm for Friday to go to the studio instead, because I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning for my regular alarm, and I'm like, at 6:12, I was like, no! And then because the last time it worked fine. And this time it's like, it's all about the phone. It's because it's hooking into the phone. There's a thing with that. So, but yeah, from now on, I'll just be in the studio.
All right. Well, we appreciate that very much. You have fun.
You guys have a great weekend as well. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye. You too.
Where are my manners? Parker, we got so excited jumping into the show, talking sports. It's first Packers game coming up this weekend that I completely whiffed on Brittany Merlot's state forecast for today. Well, see, she'll say more. This is a very brief thing that I don't want to miss, where she says record cold high temperatures are going to be set today. There's a gale warning on Lake Michigan. I remember she told us about that yesterday. And then a drier but cool weekend lies ahead with more mild conditions. She says spotty showers are possible today, blustery, again, record low highs, maybe 50 up north to near 60 in the south. Yeah, it's 45 here right now in Chippewa Falls. I don't know if it's going to get much warmer than this. A northwest wind at 20 to 30 miles an hour. And then tonight, partly cloudy and brisk. I don't know if brisk is the word I'd go with when there's going to be wind chills, but low 40s for temperatures tonight statewide, and a west wind at 10 to 20 miles an hour. That's the statewide forecast. Then Brittany will tell us much more about it coming up right after the 7 o'clock news. The again, we're all just kind of taking in like, yeah, is it really? Isn't it still summer? You know? Mhm. Yep. Yes. Yeah. I'd still like, and apparently we may be touching 80 again next week. And again, we'll get all the forecast details from Brittany in just a little bit. But yeah, this weekend, if this was the weekend you planned some big outdoor event and you were hoping it was going to be in, shorts and t-shirts, not so much. No. Yep. So again, more details from Brittany on the way. I wanted to share a couple of other history notes. That's a lot of the history is light. It's airy. Others not so much, and not so much on music, but in some ways still worth noting. For example, here's a couple of notes about the Olympics back in 1960. Muhammad Ali, then known as Cassius Clay, won a unanimous decision over a 3-time European champion to win Olympic gold in the light heavyweight division at the Games in Rome, again, this day in 1960. Fast forward to 1972, and one of the first, how some of your earliest memories are of like big events and oftentimes not very popular big events. One of the earliest things I remember watching on TV was from this day in 1972. It'd be the Munich massacre during the Olympic Games when a Palestinian terrorist group called Black September took 11 Israeli athletes hostage at the Munich Olympic Games. 2 would die in the attack, and then 9 more were murdered the following day as they tried to make an escape. And I will never forget Jim McKay of ABC Sports passing along the updates and saying of the Israeli athletes, they're all gone. In 1975, there was an assassination attempt on President Gerald Ford by Lynette Squeaky Fromm in Sacramento. The thing is, that would only be the first of 2 assassination attempts on President Ford that year. Thankfully, neither succeeding. And then this one is especially frustrating. It was on this day 2 years ago that Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the Proud Boys, was sentenced to 22 years in prison 2 years ago today, the longest sentence handed down so far for seditious conspiracy in the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol. And this is somebody who should still be in prison. He should be rotting away for his role in a violent insurrection and, the deaths of police officers, the maiming, the injury of law enforcement from a group that loves to call themselves Law and Order. He was originally scheduled to be released in the year 2040. He served less than 2 years at a prison in Louisiana before he was pardoned by Donald Trump on January 20th of this year, the day of his inauguration to his second term. He returned home to Miami and said on a podcast that he wanted retribution against those responsible for his incarceration. He would later attend the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington, D.C. After the conference ended, he returned to the Capitol building, and he was arrested for striking a female protester who was there. Would there be charges against him for that? No. In fact, the acting U.S. attorney in Washington for the Trump administration said he was not going to prosecute Enrique Tarrio for the assault and that the police officer who arrested him should be reprimanded. On May 3rd of this year, Tarrio and his mother dined at Mar-a-Lago at the invitation of one of the country club's other members, ostensibly. And when Donald Trump walked by, they spoke for about 10 minutes. And Tarrio later said he personally thanked Trump for the pardon, and Trump replied, "I love you guys." That was the president of the United States saying to the leader of an extremist hate group, "I love you guys." The same Proud Boys that during a debate back in 2020, he told the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by. And trust me, they're still standing by. They're not going anywhere. As we continue the ongoing erosion of civil liberties, as we just accept certain things as well, that's just Trump, and that's the way that things are. We're slowly working our way toward something akin to January 6th, perhaps on a softer scale, but no less a takedown of the United States government in the way that we would know it now. And it's incumbent upon us to not just wait for some one big explosive event, but to understand that, much like the frog in the boiling water, it would behoove us sooner rather than later to turn the temperature down on this, because somebody else really wants to keep heating the water up. Again, in the Text to Win Free Ticket Friday contest, the word is BASE, BASE. 2 more hours to go as we get rolling on another Friday morning powered by Up North News. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Yeah, good point, Tony. They are standing by, waiting at their jobs at ICE. Yeah, true. I'm hearing you. I'm hearing the music. So when I see comments that they're not hearing you on YouTube, it's puzzling, or the music. So yeah, yeah. Tony too says he hears no music. So I'm hearing the board. You're on the board. The music's on the board. So the board is coming through StreamYard to me. But in your case, StreamYard goes out your board and then out, and something there isn't right. But I'm going to let you think about that for a bit. I'll be right back. Uh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Good point. Huh? Go figure. Yeah. Um, ah, all right. That's funny. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's see. How's Brittany today?
Cold. How are you?
Same, same. The fireplace is going this morning. So
Ooh, that sounds nice. That's
yes, yep, yep.
nice.
Let's see. Anything else we need to know? Nope. I think we're good. Ready for a weekend.
Indeed.
Okay. All right. Just about 30 seconds. A very chilly Lake Wissota right now. Wind whipping off the lake here. Not whitecaps. It's not exactly the gale warning that you'd find on the Great Lakes, but close enough. Nice to have you back here up north on this Friday morning, September 5th, 2025. We'll tell you again the keyword for the Free Ticket Friday chance to win Brewers tickets to a game next weekend. That'll be coming up. Stick around for that. Parker Olson is producing our fine program down in Madison Studio A2, and our weekend review panel will be coming up very shortly. Former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, journalists Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze help me review some of the headlines of the past few days. But before that, let's go to meteorologist Brittany Merlot, who's going to tell us more about what do we call this? Just
A brutal battle. That's what today is. I feel like you're battling those winds. It's just cutting right through you. The cold temps. Yeah.
It's not pleasant. The couple of the neighbors, I can see smoke coming out of their chimneys, and so they've fired up their wood stoves for the first time, or their fireplaces. And we've got a gas fireplace, and that got fired up for the first time this morning. It's just that kind of a morning for it. Hopefully just a couple of them before we have to come back to these, right?
Yes. But today is going to be one of the coolest days out there. We're probably going to set record cold high temperatures once again. Yesterday, records were broken. So the coldest high temperature ever on September 4th was met yesterday in Antigo, Green Bay, Manitowoc, Marshfield, Merrill, Oshkosh, Rhinelander, and Wausau as well. And now this morning, when you step outside, wind chills, it's really feeling about 35 to 45 degrees across the state this morning. Winds are whipping at 15 to 25 miles per hour sustained, and then they're gusting around 30 to 40 at times. It is the breeziest right now into the Fox Valley and by Lake Michigan. Of course, gale warning out there, big waves mid-lake and also over towards Michigan. But as we go through the day today, we're going to stay mostly cloudy, especially north. You're going to see chances for showers and drizzle still continuing. Highs far north in the state, only in the low to mid 40s. Meanwhile, down south in the state, we're going to see some more spots of sunshine, mixed skies out there. Spotty sprinkles are possible still today. And we're looking at highs only reaching those mid to maybe some upper 50s. That's it. So again, near record cold here today. Tomorrow we'll get a little bit more mild into the mid 50s across the state. A few scattered showers do want to spark now midday, unfortunately. So those would be possible. Nothing major, not a big great event or anything. And then as we go into Sunday, no chances of rain. All sunshine out there, low to mid 60s. And we only warm things up for Monday. Everybody should hit about 70 degrees. So we will get out of this. There's light at the end of the tunnel here. But right now, like you said, the fire's going, layers, jacket weather, all of that.
And not just for ourselves, we parents have to be cognizant earlier than usual of what the kids are wearing at the bus stop.
They do.
And
They
making
do.
sure, and of course the kids will be like, Mom, I don't need this. They get warm while they're running around at recess. Like, no, still, you got to be bundled up to get out there. So layers, remember the layers. Let's see. Robin Tigerton says, good morning. Cloudy, 45 degrees, felt like 39, about a third of an inch of rain overnight. I mowed 4 yards in Tigerton wearing a hoodie and a jacket, and said he had spaghetti and meatballs last night at Blazers Bar and Grill. Spaghetti and meatball weather. Yes. That sounds like that would work for us. We were talking yesterday. It's soup and chili weather, spaghetti and meatballs. We're going for comfort food this weekend, I think, Brittany.
I agree. And I was judging people what they were wearing yesterday. I was also in the hoodie with the jacket, and I was like, who has layers? I saw people with shorts on still. Mixed bag out there. Go Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah. And Rob says, by the way, look out for the road work on Highway 29 if you're heading to the Packer game on Sunday.
Oh, yes.
Be aware. It's because it is. Oh, and Tony on YouTube, shepherd's pie weather. Yes. Oh, and I make such a good shepherd's pie in our cast iron skillet. Oh, I might have to fire that up this weekend. Sticker. There's a spoiler alert. What's Pat going to make in the cast iron skillet this weekend? Something, because it's cast iron skillet weather. That's the way we roll here. Yay. Brittany, thank you. We'll talk to you a little later.
Sounds good.
You remember you can sign up for our daily newsletter. Head to upnorthnewswi.com. And let's see. We talked about one of the articles in there already, and it's about all the different new foods that you can try at Lambeau Field if you're heading to a Packer game this season, like the cheese-infused football-shaped chicken nugget, for example. So that's part of today's newsletter coverage as well. There's a story about a little ice cream shop in western Wisconsin that won a national award at the World Dairy Expo. So learn more about how a little ice cream place up in Chautauqua won such a prestigious honor. And there's also a story there about Wisconsin and receiving FEMA aid, because a lot of folks affected by those flash floods a couple of weeks back, they're waiting to find out if they're going to get disaster relief or not, but they're going to have to get in line. There are 11 other states and tribal nations that have been waiting for their own declarations, some dating back to July, because apparently the president approves disaster aid in batches, and it's uncertain when he'll do that again. My guess would be it's like whenever they think he's suddenly feeling charitable, but that most days he would reject it if given the opportunity, because that's how we roll in this country now, where we have to wait till the president is in a good mood before we get him to sign a disaster declaration. So again, that's all part of our daily newsletter. Sign up for it over at upnorthnewswi.com. All right, I did say it was Free Ticket Friday, so here's the deal. Get that Civic Media app, call up one of the stations, and then use the text feature to text us this hour's keyword, or this morning's keyword, till 9 a.m. BASE, B-A-S-E, like first base, second base, third base, B-A-S-E, base. Text that before 9 a.m. There will be other keywords throughout the course of the day, so keep listening across the Civic Media Radio Network. So you have multiple chances to win. Then one of those statewide entries will be drawn to win 4 club-level seats to see the Brewers take on the St. Louis Cardinals next week, Saturday, September 13th. That's a Saturday evening game, 7:15 p.m. So if you can get tickets electronically on your phone and use them at the stadium, then put that app on your phone and text BASE, B-A-S-E, to us, and you could be next to win. All right, headlines that we've been talking about this morning. We already touched briefly on how one Milwaukee alderwoman, Jocasta Zamarripa, who is a former state legislator, has announced that she will be running for Secretary of State next year. The current Secretary of State, Sarah Godlewski, is now going to be running for Lieutenant Governor. Of course, several people are deciding whether to get into this race or that race. And one that gets talked about the most is Tom Tiffany, the congressman from up north in the 7th Congressional District and former state senator as well. And there has been a lot of chatter about whether Tiffany will get into the race to run for governor, or if it's just an opportunity to raise his profile and raise some money and hold on to a pretty safe seat up in the 7th District. Well, the headline in the Journal Sentinel from Lawrence Andrea says, Considering a run for governor, Representative Tom Tiffany gets a cautious response from Donald Trump. And the article starts with Tiffany apparently calling Donald Trump after Tony Evers announced he would not seek a third term as governor next year. And Tiffany told the Journal Sentinel, we talked about it, and is now saying he'll plan to launch a campaign by the end of September. And Tiffany said that the purpose of the call was to set up the state of play in Wisconsin because the president, more than anyone, understands the importance of Wisconsin. But Republican sources told the Journal Sentinel that Trump declined to endorse Tiffany's run for governor during the White House meeting. But Tiffany said Trump didn't say anything like that to me. He did say Trump's top concern during the discussion was maintaining a GOP majority in the House. And Trump asking Tiffany about the status of the 7th District if Tiffany were to decide to run for governor instead. It is exactly the kind of thing that has guided Trump on some other matters where cabinet appointments and other jobs have been pulled back in order to maintain the Republicans' razor-thin majority. And as if that weren't enough, then in Texas, they're meddling with the maps, and Missouri is about to do the same thing. Trump knows that the only way that he can maintain this authoritarian control over the federal government is to have a Congress that has neutered itself, which is exactly what Tom Tiffany and Tony Weed and all the others have done. Brian Stile and Glenn Grothman and Scott Fitzgerald and Derek Van Orden, of course, have all united behind Trump in refusing to assert congressional ability to provide oversight and transparency. It's also why on the other side of the building, the Senate has approved cabinet officer nominations for people that they know are eminently not qualified. And we're going to talk to our weekend review panel about Robert Kennedy Jr. and that absolute circus of a Senate hearing yesterday when he was grilled about his opposition to vaccine and to other notes of basic science and public health and the cuts that he supports to Medicaid that he, like other Republicans, continues to claim are not a cut at all. None of this would be happening right now if we had some folks in Congress on the Republican side who would do the thing that they always say they're going to do, and that is be independent-minded, still be conservative, but stand up for their district rather than for any one person. And we've certainly seen that with presidents before, where members of Congress on the Republican side would stand up to, say, a George W. Bush when he wanted to privatize Social Security and say, no, that's too much. We can't do that. But now we have a president who is cutting $1 trillion from Medicaid, not to save money, but to simply pass it on to tax cuts for the very wealthy. And there is no spinal fortitude among members of Congress to stand up for that, to stand up for the rounding up and disappearing of people on America's streets. Even the recent attack on a boat coming from Venezuela that was purportedly filled with drug dealers and drugs, and that the U.S. just blew out of the water, which I'm not sure how much people know whether we're governed by the rule of law or the rule of Rambo, but people are typically put on trial if they're committing crimes. This wasn't like some attack where terrorists were coming and they were going to land the boat and they were going to start shooting. These are drug runners. Yes, they're criminals. What we do with criminals is we put them on trial. We don't execute people on the spot. You know who does that? A police state. You know, the kind of place that would put military troops on the streets of their own country in order to provide a show of force. That's the kind of thing that I thought Republicans, libertarians, and others would never stand for. But it turns out they'll do that as long as it's Donald Trump. And Donald Trump will go through any means possible to hold on to that slim majority in Congress, even if it comes down to telling Tom Tiffany, well, that might be a safe district up north, but Are you back? I guess. I guess. I guess I'm back. I am just. I am. I am nearly shaking with rage right now at Spectrum because I looked when something. My screen went dark, and then I looked over and there was a little white light on the modem, but it's back now. So that would be the fastest reset it's ever done, but that is absolutely unacceptable. Uh, Yep, it was. So let's bring in Jim and Mark and Jennifer, and hopefully our little technical snafus are all past us now. So everybody good today?
All good, all good.
All right. Well, after when we come back from break here in 90 seconds, I will apologize for the snafu. I'll try to reset where I left off on things like authoritarians and civil liberties. And Jim, I was going to start with you and the Venezuelan boat bombing, just because.
God.
I mean, again, even John Adams took a lot of grief for being a defense lawyer, but that's how we roll in this country. So I was going to set that up first with you, if you don't mind.
All right.
And
Very
then
good.
we'll get into Mark and Jennifer, their take on, again, civil liberties, troops on the streets, all the fun stuff, And then let's see, we've got and Mark, that'll take us into Chicago and your column there. Jennifer, there's the DC one. We got you there. Let's see, I got the amicus thing here. All right, I'm going to stop prattling because we got 45 seconds left. Mark or Jennifer, anything you want me to hit right off the bat after that?
Well, that's fine. I think the the Department of War stuff is also.
Oh, yes.
The Department of War, RFK.
I mean,
yeah, I know we're going to get
basically we're trying to make sure every country in the world hates us.
Yeah,
that's the basic goal.
That's exactly where we are. All right, just about 15 seconds. Welcome back. It is just about 7:23 on a Friday morning, and yes, it appears that I'm back. For a moment there, I saw my screen kind of go black, and I looked over at my router through Spectrum, and it was making a weird little light. Now the lights are blue again, which is a good thing. But Spectrum and I, we're going to have a chat real quick here. Adam on YouTube. They're trying to silence you, Pat, or something. But we've had some interesting technical glitches on this Friday, not just here, but on YouTube as well. So it's just a funky kind of Friday. It's also a free ticket Friday, and you can win tickets to the Brewers game playing the Cardinals next Saturday, September 13th, 7:15 p.m. Text us BASE, B-A-S-E, before 9 a.m. on the Civic Media app and be part of the statewide drawing. One entry is going to win those 4 club level seats. Now, before I was so rudely interrupted by silence, I was talking about an authoritarian president and the rule of law and how it should still mean something in this day and age. So to talk about the rule of law, we've got a former U.S. attorney, Jim Santel, is here, along with journalists Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze, and we'll get into all this with our Week in Review panel. Good to see all of you here. And Jim, it's not the story that is top of mind for most Americans, and most Americans would say, why would we defend, drug runners, trying to bring a boat full of drugs from Venezuela into the country? I get all that. But somebody's got to be the one to say, we're a rule of laws and we don't just bomb boats out of the water. We tend to put people on trial. If it's not something like, an actual enemy invasion of the country. Jim, am I wrong? Is the rule of law being lost in all this, or could this potentially just be a one and done situation?
We would hope it would be a one and done situation, but I suspect it's probably not. And Pat, the concerns I think that all of us, including many of you, if not all of your listeners, have about this being effectively an act of war in the seas is well taken. People inside the Pentagon, who plainly are not going to be publicly speaking about this, have the same kinds of concerns, especially since, Pat, when it comes to law enforcement, We've got another remedy, as we always do when we think about Los Angeles and Washington, D.C., domestic responses to a problem that's out there, which is drugs and movement on the high seas. We get that completely. How do we normally address those kinds of things when we've got that information? It's called the United States Coast Guard. And what they typically do is they will interdict and they'll stop boats, again, on the high seas, for which we've got jurisdiction, and seize those drugs, and sometimes even seize properties, those kinds of things. That's the way that we do it in America. That's the way that it's been done for years. That's what the law prescribes. It doesn't contemplate these kinds of, or this kind of bombing, which partakes again of wartime activities. And we, once again, I see in this the same kind of thing, as I said, that we have seen in the overreaches. Undeniably, we've got another federal judge who just this past week said, Mr. President, you can't do in Los Angeles what you have done, in the clearest language, Posse Comitatus Act. Another overreach, and it's just another instance, regrettably, of this president completely violating the law and doing it with, apparently with impunity, as you said, your prior segment of Congress does not act at all.
No, this Congress has been extremely compliant, and complicit, essentially. And both Jennifer and Mark have talked about this from two different standpoints. Jennifer has on her Indistinct Chatter a column, DC residents are flooding social media with critical reality checks on Trump's takeover scheme. And Mark Jacob has a headline, in Chicago, we do not submit. Trump is trying to intimidate a city that refuses to be intimidated. Mark, we'll start with you and talk a bit about your column and, how the city of Chicago views this potential invasion, if you will, by Trump, rooted in absolutely nothing in regards to basic law enforcement.
Well, there's a new report that came out that this was the least violent summer in Chicago since 1965. So, I mean, yeah, crime is a problem in Chicago. It's always been a problem. It's a lot less of a problem now than it was in the 1990s. I mean, crime has steadily gone down in recent decades. And, people are trying to do things. They're trying to, there are programs, to find jobs for people and to teach young people to be less violent. I mean, there are real things going on in this city to try to stop this. And, Trump, like putting National Guard troops on the streets armed is not going to do it. I mean, it might be a recipe for disaster, and it's not really fair to the National Guard. I mean, this is what the thing is that I think is people need to understand that this is not, he's not really addressing the problem. He's just looking for an excuse to be an authoritarian, to put troops on the streets because he really hates cities that voted against him that are run by black mayors. He hates that.
Yeah. And Jennifer, in DC, you talk about, the reality check there. I've seen some of that as well. Tell folks a bit more about what you're saying in your column.
Well, the thing that struck me about what was happening in DC, on top of all of the other things about it, the troops being there in the first place, was how the real story about it was coming through people's on the ground experience, filming and talking about seeing these raids, the actual protests, and how Washington residents were responding. And I think, it's almost citizen journalism that's telling a really good and accurate story about what's going on, where the national media is way up here saying crime crackdown. The people who live there are saying, hold on, this is what's going on. Look at, there's 40 guards in my, train station or at the mall, and we don't need this. And this is not, not appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, basically just a show of force. The actual arresting isn't being done by National Guard troops. It's being done by federal law enforcement agents from, DEA and Homeland Security, because they have the power to make arrests. And as the DC mayor said, hey, if you gave me 500 additional cops, we could have the same result. But we're dealing with austerity budgets here from Republicans. We'll talk more about this with our Week in Review panel coming up in just a moment. First, a reminder, Brewers are in Pittsburgh starting a series tonight. Pregame begins at 5:05 on several stations across the Civic Media Radio Network. We'll hear from the Midwest Farm Report next. I'm Pat Kreitlow, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. All right. There we go. We're in break here. Take that down, put that over here. And yeah, we'll just pick up where we left off here. So,
say, Pat, this is this is a long past recollection, but I was in Iraq for about 2 years or so, and remember the surge?
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
When George Bush said we got to get control of this, so we were in a war. That's number one. Number two, sent there again. Quite literally, saw him in Baghdad and Kirkuk and all sorts of other places where I was hanging out. And does it work? You bet it does. The surge worked. The surge worked. Why? Because you've got a 23-year-old carrying an AR-15 on every single corner of the cities. And that's what we've got going on now, right? And the issue is, number one, do you want your cities to look like that? Number two, is that sustainable, right? And even in Iraq, after a while, it becomes clear you cannot do that indefinitely. Does it work for a period of time? You're not addressing the underlying problems, which are in there, all sorts of insurrectionist problems. Here, other crime issues, which again, as Marcus said, are not that significant.
Well, and again, you engage in soft power, which is what we tried, but of course we just dismantled USAID. So we got all that working for us. All right, we're back in 3.5 minutes. 7:35. Welcome back, live from Lake Wissota. I'm Pat Kreitlow, and again, it's a Free Ticket Friday. Our keyword this hour, and until 9 a.m. is BASE, BASE, for the chance to win 4 tickets to see the Brewers against St. Louis next Saturday, September 13th. The Brewers are playing the Pirates for this weekend in Pittsburgh. Pregame tonight at 5:05. And then while we're continuing with sports, there's some high school football games across the Civic Media Radio Network on various stations. On Saturday, the Wisconsin Badgers take on Middle Tennessee. Coverage begins at 1 o'clock on stations in Richland Center, Amory, Wisconsin Rapids, and Ripon. And then you've got the Packers kicking off the NFL season against Detroit. Coverage begins Sunday at 1 p.m. on WRCO in Richland Center, WCQM in Park Falls, WRJN in Racine, and the newest Packers affiliate here on the Civic Media Radio Network, WAUH in Watoma. So plenty of opportunities. And by the way, before I get back to our weekend review panel, tonight's Brewers game in Pittsburgh, you might really want to pay attention to, if you don't normally listen on the radio, consider joining this evening, starting at 5:05. Why do I say that? Because it's another one of those Apple TV games. So if you head over to your usual FanDuel Sports Network thing, you're not going to see the Brewers tonight. You have to have an Apple TV Plus subscription. And if you go to a bar or restaurant and they don't have it, you're not going to see the game there either. So consider yourself warned about that. Back to our weekend review panel here with journalist Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze and former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel. And we were talking about the rule of law from a president that, yeah, I know it should have a laugh track on it, which includes, by the way, a president who has now signed the executive order, or is about to sign it, renaming the Defense Department as the Department of War. Mark, it seems to just be one more, reason to show that this guy is not about anything that's related to diplomacy, negotiations. He's totally believing that if he goes with the authoritarian strongman route, that just enough people are going to reward him for that.
Yeah, to me, it's just one more play for insecure men. We're going to be big macho move. We're going to call it the Department of War. And it's also like this. It's the Make America Great Again thing. It's the idea that before World War II was some sort of golden age, I thought it was such a mature move to change the War Department to the Defense Department, because it stated what the mission was, and the mission was to defend our country. It was national security. It wasn't to go invade places and steal territory. But Trump seems to want to invade places and steal territory. So, this is just more of a declaration of that. It is just going to make every country in the world hate us. It seems like everything Trump does is designed to make the United States into a pariah state.
And it's all about the labeling. But Jennifer, unlike the Gulf of Mexico and demanding it be called the Gulf of America. And yeah, again, some places went along with it. Thankfully, I think a lot of Americans just kind of chortled at the whole notion of it. But here it's the actual name change of a department. And I know that were I still back working in newsrooms, my editors might not like it, but the department in my mind is suddenly going to get a longer name. The Department of War, more commonly known as the Department of Defense or something like that. But I suppose for a lot of news consumers, they're just going to hear Department of War from now on.
It's marketing, which is what all of Trump is about, right? And he doesn't have the legal authority to change the name. So really what he's doing is giving it a nickname. Now, he could go to Congress, and Congress would probably go along with it, but it would require a law change to actually change it. And I know that probably is not so meaningful to a lot of people, but it should be, because it's part of a pattern with Trump. He does things for marketing that he's not really legally allowed to do, and everybody just kind of goes along with it at first blush, and then it sticks. And he names everything, and frankly, the media goes along with his naming of everything. Alligator Alcatraz is a perfect example. You could have called it a detention center, but headlines everywhere said, that I think rather repulsive name. The same thing here. You don't have to call it the Department of War. It's not technically that, but everybody will.
Yeah. Well, it's like Big Beautiful Bill, which again,
which they're trying to change.
Which now they're trying to change
the name of that.
Well, again, because it's marketing, and if the marketing isn't working, you change the label. Jim Santel, I don't think it's going to be much longer till Department of Justice has some other kind of Department of Retribution. Maybe is where we go from there.
Absolutely. You think about how you're going to change that granite, which is on 9th and Constitution there, and chisel out Justice Department and all the other good phrases about the rule of law and those kinds of things. Jennifer's got it just right, of course. That does require, I know this it's a lawyer talking, and yes, people roll their eyes, does require actions of Congress. President notoriously said, well, I think they'll go along with it. We just want to do this. That's not the basis upon which we operate government in America. Reminded, again, in kind of a reverse way, George Orwell's 1984. Remember the ministries labeled things that were just the opposite? Ministry of Truth is actually the Ministry of Falsehood. Peace is actually the Ministry of War. All those kinds of things. Again, for purposes of telling the people, I think it's Oceania is the name of the country, and misleading them and giving them a sense that, well, we've got this under control now. And as Mark just said, we're exercising our muscle in a way that should give you some sense of calm. It is straight out of Orwell, and it is regrettably just the latest illegality from this president.
And the illegalities are being called out in some ways. You hinted at one earlier about troop deployment in Los Angeles. There was another court setback this week about Trump trying to kill funding for Harvard, where again, a court saying you can't do that. But like a lot of these others, is there a stay then on that, and basically nothing changes while everything is appealed?
Right. So this is Allison Burroughs. Again, she's in Boston. We've heard from her before on this. She's got an 84-page ruling in case you want to spend your morning or afternoon or during the Packer game reading this opinion. The reality is that it will be appealed. Again, it will ultimately go up to the First Circuit. They will affirm this. But at some point, again, stand in line, all these things going to the Supreme Court. She's got some amazing language along the way, which, again, Americans should take focus on. She says, this important research, which is being suspended, is being done by virtue of arbitrary and capricious action, and should not happen. She says, even if doing risks the wrath of a government committed to its agenda, no matter what the cost. Those are strong, strong words from a federal district court judge, and she is unequivocal about it. She talks about sacrificing things on the altar of this government, and again, it is not just good reading. It is the law as of today. It almost certainly will be subject to further review. And we know what the Supreme Court has done in the past on these kinds of things. My interest is to know what the Supreme Court is going. This is going to be the watershed, is what they do on tariffs. If in fact they decide, yes, indeed, the Constitution does not grant exclusive authority to the Congress to work on tariffs, that's a line in not just the sand, that's the quick drying cement. And then we've gone over, and then we've completely lost any sense of control.
Mark, I feel like I can hear members of the audience saying, stop buying into the distraction. There's a lot of distraction here that there are things Donald Trump does not want to talk about, wants to cover up. Obviously, I'm referring to the Epstein files and a case where a lot of the victims of this predator were on Capitol Hill this week to basically welcome Congress back and to say, hey, you guys left town leaving us hanging. Stop leaving us hanging, even though Speaker Mike Johnson is trying everything possible to protect somebody who, how did you put it in your tweet? Why would somebody be fighting this hard to keep something hidden if it exonerated them?
Right. I mean, if he's clean in these files, why is he trying so hard to me, actually, I thought of a second thing. So one, the possibilities are one, that looks bad in the Epstein files, and so he doesn't want them released. The other possibility is that he is using the Epstein files as blackmail, and he doesn't want to lose that advantage. So, I mean, either one is terrible. And it's just amazing, this party that wanted to, drain the swamp and, and expose all the predators is now desperately trying to prevent the release of the Epstein files. Trump is squeezing in members of Congress. Mike Johnson is, that's his main job right now, is to cover up the Epstein files. And I mean, it's such hypocrisy. And Trump was the one who made this into an issue in the first place by, without any evidence, accusing Bill Clinton of being involved in it. And so, but the thing about it is, Democrats and people, pro-democracy crowd like me, I'm not a Democrat, but I'm part of the pro-democracy crowd. And I just want decency. I want the release of the files, no matter who it hurts. If it hurts a Democrat, fine. I mean, if they're guilty, fine. I don't care about, party. I care about decency. And the Republicans ought to be the same way.
But Jennifer, and I don't say this to be cynical, but if there's one thing that Trump and his band have learned over the years, is if you just hold tight, America's attention span will move on to something else. And I'm quite certain that Epstein's victims are aware of this and are going to try whatever they can to keep media attention on this case. But it, again, not to be cynical, but that's going to be a bit of a challenge.
It is, but I think they're actually quite successful at it to this point. I mean, just look at the news conference the other day. Although I will note that while if you had a monitor where you could see all of the TV networks, you wouldn't have noticed that some were not carrying it or did not carry much of it, including News Nation, which I've long said is aspiring to be like Fox, and Fox took a little bit of it and then was gone, while other networks stayed with it completely. So I think, they have a story that has hooked America, rightfully so, and I think that it will continue. And I also don't agree with this idea that there's distractions. It's all part of the same thing. Everything that's happening with Trump is all part of this authoritarian march. And I think we should talk about all of it. And I don't think we should minimize things by saying, well, that's a distraction. And so let's talk about this. Let's talk about all of it. It's all a big darn mess.
It is, but I can say from personal experience in multiple areas, there are people saying, well, if you can't focus all the time on Trump and all the bad things going on, because people will just tune out. It's a balancing act that we've talked about on this program repeatedly, is that if you dwell on everything for too long, people want to turn their attention elsewhere, even if it is a 5-alarm fire, Mark, that's burning down the house. It's it's the ongoing tightrope. I got about 30 seconds till break if you want to talk a bit about trying to keep the news media's focus.
Well, I mean, I do think that repetition is really important. The right wing has known this for a very long time, that if you say something enough times, people are going to believe it. And so I think maybe some people who are on the side of decency are going to keep on saying the word Epstein, and people are going to keep on remembering it.
Well, and again, I think that you've got, in this case, victims who are not going to simply let this go. They have fought for this long and are now saying they'll compile their own list and do what they have to do with it. Our week in review panel consists of former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel and journalist Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Mike Clemens gives us an update on the Packers season opener against Detroit coming up in our next hour, along with Dr. Kristin Lyerly. Stay tuned. Okay, we're in break, and we're gonna do the RFK stuff.
Great. Hey, by the way, the jobs numbers just came out.
Oh, yes. Okay.
They're bad. It's only 22,000 jobs added. Unemployment rate highest since 2021.
Ooh.
Wage growth lowest since 2021.
Okay, they'll just pick up where we left off yesterday, talking about stagflation. That'll be fun.
And it's going to get worse, unless Trump can succeed in faking the numbers.
Okay.
Well, Lutnick was just on CNBC, and he said, "Don't worry, the jobs numbers will get better because we're going to take out the people who are just trying to create noise against the president." I don't know what that means exactly, but I think it means we're going to fudge them.
Oh, man. Okay. All right. So be it. All right. We'll be back in 2.5 minutes. Exactly. For Free Ticket Friday, if you want to be entered for 4 tickets to see the Brewers versus the Cardinals next Saturday, the word between now and 9 a.m. is BASE, B-A-S-E. Text that to us using the Civic Media app. A few minutes more with our Week in Review panel, former U.S. Attorney Jim Santel, journalist Mark Jacob, and Jennifer Schulze. And let's start with the breaking news here that the new jobless numbers are out. And as we discussed with Sean O'Malley yesterday, the past few months have been weak, to put it mildly. Mark, these new numbers are weak, to put it strongly. 22,000 jobs in August?
Yeah, only 22,000. They thought there'd be a lot more, and the jobless rate popped up to 4.3%, which is the highest it's been since 2021. And also, they revised previous months, which they do, based on collecting more data. This is normal that they revise it, but they revised both of the previous 2 months down. In fact, it now shows that the U.S. lost jobs in June.
And yet, Jennifer, you recall that a month ago when Trump didn't like the numbers, suddenly the person reporting the numbers was fired. And so when you look at these bad numbers, you were saying a member of the Trump administration is already promising further evidence to fuel those concerns that future numbers will not be credible.
Right. The Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, was on CNBC just a little while ago before the numbers came out and promising that the numbers would get better because they were going to ferret out people who had vendettas against Donald Trump. And a reminder to everybody, the BLM is considered, a very credible organization filled with math nerds. These are not people that are, who are actively campaigning against one president or another. They're just, collecting data and doing their jobs. Trump wants you to think something else about this agency, but the truth is it's a bunch of very serious people who are just collecting data and sharing it with the rest of us.
And by the way, this is a guy who pledged to bring back manufacturing. Manufacturing shed another 12,000 jobs. Manufacturing is in a world of hurt right now, including the uncertainty of the ongoing trade war. And then government employees overall, since the beginning of the year, the federal government has shed 97,000 jobs. And Jim Santel, if folks think that won't make a difference, think again. In everything from our national parks to our courthouses, there's a lot of support staff that's not there anymore.
Absolutely. And I know it may be popular to take shots at government employees. My own sense, having spent about 3 decades inside the Department of Justice and the Department of State and other places, is that, believe it or not, when it comes to these basic core functions of government, not to say that there cannot be revisions and amendments in workforces, but it's incredibly skeletal. And when you think even about the groups, for example, the Civil Rights Division, Federal Programs Branch, other folks inside the Department of Justice that have been decimated recently, it's not a large group to begin with. And the notion that you're going to simply wipe these people out, and it really stops the function of government in ways that we anticipate government functioning. And what you do then, of course, is you replace it with people who are just sided with you in terms of a entirely new mission. For example, the Civil Rights Division, no longer enforcing civil rights, but going after those people who would pretend to do things like voting rights and ensuring those, access to everything from residential facilities, all kinds of things, turning things on their head when you replace the people who are gone with people who are simply allegiant to you for no readily apparent reason other than political alliances.
And just set aside that whole notion of government and ideology, you're talking 97,000 souls who are now unemployed.
Right.
And doesn't really do much to help the economy there.
And Pat, I would also add experienced people. These are people who know what they're doing, and they're out there without jobs. We are diminished by the fact that they're I'm not going to say what their next job will be. Hopefully they'll find ways to become gainfully employed. But this is a huge, huge brain drain. It is a loss of expertise, and we are lessened because of it.
Well, look what we're putting in its place, Mark. And by that, I'm referring to Robert Kennedy Jr. and that, shall we say, interesting congressional hearing yesterday where, he stuck to his guns, if you will, and it was very combative and it made for, I suppose it made for good TV, but it really did underscore, what a precarious position national public health is in this country based on that Q&A.
Yeah, I mean, it's so dangerous. I mean, there's really no question that vaccines have saved many, many lives, and yet he's gone to war against vaccines. And in that hearing yesterday, I mean, he just lied over and over again. And I kind of wish that they had it set up as some good TV journalists do now, where you have the video queued up, and as soon as he lies, you just show him his past statement, because he kept on denying stuff that he really said and saying he never said that. Oh, I never said that. You're making it up. No, he really said things. I mean, he's a pathological liar. He's a disturbed person, and Trump has put him in charge of the America's health. It's just shocking. And a real interesting little event in that hearing was that the Democrats wanted him sworn in. I mean, generally, if you testify in front of Congress, you are in effect sworn in. If you lie to Congress, you can be prosecuted. So you don't necessarily have to go through the process of swearing someone in. But the Democrats asked that he be sworn in. He's such a liar, and the Republicans refused.
That's Mark Jacob. You can catch his column Stop the Presses at stopthepresses.news. Jennifer Schulze has Indistinct Chatter. Go to Substack and look for Indistinct Chatter or at News Jennifer. And of course, Amicus, a law review with Jim Santel, can be heard on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock, replayed on Sunday on civic media stations all around Wisconsin. You can learn more at civicmedia.us. And you can also find a link to what Mark does through Courier Newsroom, parent company to Up North News. We had enough to go on that I didn't get to do much chit chat. I hope you all had a great Labor Day weekend. I trust you did. Have a good weekend here, and we'll talk again next week.
Bye, everybody.
See you then, Pat.
Thanks to all of you for joining us today. And again, one more reminder that our keyword for Free Ticket Friday is BASE, BASE. You've got till 9 o'clock to text that in for the drawing for 4 tickets to see the Brewers versus St. Louis next Saturday. Again, use the Civic Media app. Dr. Kristin Lyerly is standing by, and then Mike Clemens as well in our 8 o'clock hour, live from Lake Wissota on the Civic Media Radio Network. There we go. All right, James, thank you so much.
Pat, we'll see you next week. Have a good week.
All right, see ya. Hello, friend.
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
You know, recuperating.
Yeah. Well, you're supposed to be recuperating. I saw that Facebook post. I saw you being a non-compliant patient, making public appearances.
You know, I couldn't not. I literally went there, did the introduction, and gave her a big hug, and then left. I just couldn't stay for the event.
Aw. How you feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of figured. Okay.
Yeah.
Can't be easy. All right, good. So I did want to touch on states going it alone with vaccine guidelines, because it kind of tied into what you said about ACOG not taking federal money, and these, all these various groups will be putting out information if you can't trust the federal government.
And ACOG is also doing their own guidelines.
Yeah. And any other things right off the top you want to hit?
RFK's thing yesterday.
Let's get into that. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. I'll be back in a bit.
Okay.
Yes, hearing the news, hearing you, just fine. Yep. Oh, oh, okay. I don't know which is more noteworthy on the text line. There's an entry here from a Dr. Kristin Lyerly, along with a smiley face, and Tom and Jackson saying, "I think today's show is one of Pat's best shows." I'm sitting here going, I feel like this is one of my worst shows. That which one? Oh, technologically, this has been a challenge. Oh no, it's okay. Alicia says still not hearing it, and I believe I'm sure she means you. Okay, it's an interesting problem. Yeah, right. Okay, we got to whiteboard this thing. We need a scientist. Oh, here's Brittany now. So,
Those bugs in the system.
yeah, yeah. Dr. Merlot. Oh, that should be a wine company. Dr.
Right?
Merlot. Yeah. Dr. Chardonnay. It's nice to have you back at 8:06 on this Friday morning, September 5th, from Lake Wissota, all across the Civic Media Radio Network. On this Friday morning, where Parker Olson is producing the show, and we got friends. Meteorologist Brittany Merlot standing by, Dr. Kristin Lyerly as well. And then Mike Clemens will be joining us at the bottom of the hour to talk about the season opener for the Green Bay Packers. And Dr. Lyerly already slurping out of her Green Bay Packer coffee mug. She's ready.
Always.
Yep. And she'll tell us what to expect on the Dr. Kristin Lyerly show coming up in just a bit. But first, Brittany, last week when we said, for the start of the high school football season, this is it's appropriate. This is high school football weather. Isn't that nice?
Try to justify it.
It's not that nice the second week in a row here. But once again, this is temperatures this below average are not here to stay.
No, they're not. And, I kind of like the pride thing. We are setting records with this cold now. We're going,
yes, it's good news.
Right. We're going down in history. I don't know. I always try to find the positive. We're Wisconsin strong. Yes. Yesterday we hit record cold high temperatures in Green Bay, Manitowoc, Marshfield, Merrill, Oshkosh, Rhinelander, Wausau. All of these places felt it. And today, state records for cold high temperatures are on the line again all across the state. Madison, Milwaukee, every little area is going to be dropping a little bit cooler today compared to yesterday, actual temperature-wise, but it's going to be even feeling worse because we've got to battle those breezy winds that are whipping out of the northwest. Now they're sustained at 15 to 25 miles per hour and gusting to about 35 miles per hour. So wind chills out there today. Layers are needed. It's feeling about 5 to 10 degrees cooler than the actual temperature outside. And highs today only reaching the low to mid 40s far north, where you're going to be stuck with more clouds today, overcast, drizzle, kind of damp and dreary. And then down south, more chances for spots of sunshine, highs reaching those upper 50s, maybe scraping 60. If you scrape 60, you're not going to get a record cold high temperature today. So might as well break records, right? Let's be proud of something. I don't know.
Right. You got to hang your hat on something here.
Right.
So can we look then at the Packer game Sunday afternoon? What folks will be facing?
Absolutely. So it actually looks to be much calmer, brighter. Clouds are still going to be out there. So I'm going to say mixed skies, partly sunny, and highs right there in those mid to low 60s. So mid 60s when the game starts, low 60s by the time it's over. Winds only 5 to 10 miles per hour. So comfortable compared to right now.
Which is breaking Kristin's heart over here because I'm guessing, Kristin, this will not be one of those games you ride your bike 10 miles to get to Lambeau Field.
No, but I do have the grill in the back of the car already, and we're working on the menu. So let's go. Perfect tailgating weather.
It does sound like that very much so. Kristin, is for folks who might not have heard, had knee replacement surgery. And so we're going to talk a bit about that. But while the meteorologist is here, I just have to know at this point, do you feel like you're able to predict the weather better with either your bionic knee or your non-bionic knee at this point? Is there any weather tie-in?
Oh, yeah.
No.
No? That's good.
See,
Hey, it's been a week. I don't know. Give me some time.
True.
All right. Thank you, Brittany. Have a wonderful
Thank you.
weekend.
You
All
too.
right. Yep. Good to see you. Have a great weekend. So how are you doing, Dr. Lyerly, with your new set of wheels?
You know, it's cool that my leg is straight again. That was a long time coming. The whole recovery from surgery thing stinks. And
Yeah.
I know that many of our listeners out there have recovered from something. It is just so hard to not be yourself and do the things that you do and to ask for help. It's, even just to ask my kids to bring me an ice pack makes me like, I don't like doing that because I like doing things for myself, but it's very humbling, and it really makes you recognize what a lot of our friends and neighbors go through, people who are living with disabilities and who are, challenged to go outside or even just go to Costco and get some groceries becomes a giant event.
Mhm.
So, it's a humbling experience to be sure.
Would you call yourself a compliant patient at this point?
No, I am not.
Well, they do say that about doctors sometimes, and I just didn't know if the stereotype were to fit. I know that you, for example, did make an appearance on behalf of the lieutenant governor who's running for governor here, and I'm sure that was very enjoyable.
How do you not show up for Sarah Rodriguez when she shows up in your hometown?
Right.
I had to.
Mm-hmm.
It was a compromise, though. I went to the event. I said hey to everybody. I introduced her, and then I walked off the stage and right to my car and went to bed.
I believe it, but again, it's the showing up that counts. Alicia puts on YouTube, I think the arthritis in my right foot does a good job with the weather predicting. So I guess it's all a matter of degree, what particular ailments you have. I don't have anything like that, except that every so often you look at the sky. Yesterday, the sky looked like it wanted to snow. It had that really dark look to the clouds. And I was like, don't you dare. This has been brutal enough. So normally we ask what you're up to for the weekend here, and we know you're still recovering. So I hope that goes well.
Pat, we're going to tailgate because you know what I have?
What do you have?
Handicapped parking permit. Yes, I do. So I'm going to throw my reclined folding chair in the back of the car next to the grill, cooler full of stuff, and I'll see you at Lambeau.
Okay. So you got that going for you. So that's great. All right. And I would imagine there was still and still will be a Dr. Kristin Lyerly show this weekend.
It's going to be so good. I talk with the women from Northern Door Activism. So Emily, I always get her last name wrong. I'm just going to say Emily and Sarah. Okay. They are incredible advocates who, after the Dobbs decision, wanted to do something but didn't know what. And what they decided to do was community things like book clubs and marches and anything that their community felt like it was needing. They were going to step up and be that voice. And here we are 3 years later, and they are still going strong, actually stronger than ever. So Emily Kranick, Sarah White, Peach Barn Brewery up in Sister Bay. It's going to be a wonderful show. Please do tune in this weekend.
All right. And again, head to civicmedia.us to learn more if you're not in the immediate Green Bay or Oshkosh area. And we can subscribe as a podcast, I'm quite certain.
Everywhere you get your podcasts. The Dr. Kristin Lyerly Show. It's on Apple, Spotify, Substack, you name it. I'm there.
There. Boom. Exactly.
Boom.
All right. Well, let's ask the doctor about the non-doctor. We were talking in the last hour about the Robert Kennedy Jr. appearance on Capitol Hill yesterday. And
where do you even start?
I was just going to say, just Kristin, go. I don't even know how to feed something that much quackery,
The tone, first of all, I have never seen a committee hearing that was so ugly and confrontational and just unnecessary. It was so clear that RFK Jr. is not interested in science or helping. He just has an agenda that he wants to push. And watching him and Bernie Sanders go at it, holy cow. The The thing that really hit me, though, was the rural health piece.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of the piece, they talked about how in the One Big Beautiful Bill, $50 billion was added to support rural hospitals. What they failed to leave out was that they defunded rural hospitals by $150 billion. So this is politics at its very worst. The way that they were shining this up and making it look like it was some sort of big gift, because it's not. It's really going to hurt our rural communities. It's really going to hurt our most vulnerable people who need this health care. And it's frankly shameful to watch RFK do this.
And again, borrowing from, the current right-wing playbook, which is just deny, lie, and never give an inch of ground. And that way, just enough people will believe you, even if you're still saying the same false thing over and over and over again, which is exactly what we were hearing. And like I said, while it might have made for confrontational TV, I think it also just underscored it's that much tougher for people to find credible health information. And you've mentioned about ACOG, the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, and other medical groups essentially going off on their own when it comes to providing health and vaccine guidelines. And we had the story yesterday about how several states are now forming coalitions to do this because you can no longer trust the Department of Health and Human Services or the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention.
And it matters. I got a call yesterday from one of my neighbors who is a senior citizen. He went to the doctor, tried to get a COVID vaccine, and was denied. And he was denied because the FDA has not approved the COVID vaccines for people in his cohort, and his doctor wasn't comfortable offering it. So this has created, what RFK Jr. is doing has created a massive ball of confusion where states and colleges and other organizations are coming up with their own recommendations. People don't know which vaccines to get. Insurance companies don't cover vaccines that aren't FDA approved. They don't have to. So there are so many confusing policies out there for people who want to be vaccinated. It is a really challenging landscape right now.
Well, and if a doctor is saying, well, I can't give you this, or I don't feel comfortable doing it, if you can't work with your own doctor, I don't even know where somebody starts at this point, except maybe your state health department, unless you're in Florida,
Right.
or one of these other, credible groups. If you're pregnant, for example, is to go to the ACOG website or something like that.
Yeah, that's what we have to do. I think that's what we as outspoken physicians have to do, is just get the word out there. If you are pregnant or planning to get pregnant or breastfeeding, these are going to be your recommendations. Or if you live in Wisconsin, these are going to be your recommendations. But, when COVID happened, we did everything that we could to break down barriers and make it as easy as possible for people to get medication and vaccinations and information. And they're doing exactly the opposite, dismantling that. So the confusion is making it really hard for people, and that is going to cost lives.
Well, and that's one of the greatest contradictions is here is a president who was trying to take credit for Operation Warp Speed to get the COVID vaccine out, but now bringing on, a vaccine denialist and truly trying to have it both ways on this, along with many other issues. But, saying we did the right thing then, but we need you to doubt it now for whatever reason. How can people not be confused?
Didn't I catch some testimony yesterday? Back me up on this, where they were talking about, I think it was RFK who talked about nominating Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize for Operation Warp Speed, but then also, which is the COVID vaccine, the development of the COVID vaccine, but then completely discrediting the COVID vaccine. It doesn't make any sense. And then when he was called on it, he just said, "What are you talking about? This is gibberish."
Yeah.
What?
Again, just deny it, accuse the other person of lying, even though the evidence is right there. It's right there of what they said. They can't escape their record, and yet they just say, "Oh, I don't know." Or what Trump said last weekend about some video. "Oh, it must be AI." Now they blame everything on AI too.
Yeah.
But you can't hide what was really there if we've got, folks like you and others willing to actually correct the record. We're talking to Dr. Kristin Lyerly. On this Friday, we've got Mike Clemens coming up, who's going to have a preview of the Packers-Lions. We'll talk a bit about the Brewers as well. Losing 2 out of 3 to the Phillies, but still maintaining their lead in the National League Central Division. They now head out to Pittsburgh. They will play the Pirates. Here, coverage begins at 5:05 this evening on several Civic Media stations. And, of course, it's Free Ticket Friday. You can win tickets to see the Brewers-Cardinals game next Saturday, September 13th. You've got just over a half hour yet to text us the word BASE, B-A-S-E, for your chance to win those tickets. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
If you text base with a smiley face, does that give you extra points?
I don't know if the computer does that or not. So, but at least thank you for being wise enough to put the smiley face separately from the base, sending it in 2 texts, because I think it only looks for the word base and anything else it kicks out. So yeah, there you go. Because you are rather hot. Yeah.
Okay. Is it better like this? Like this? Hello, hello, hello? Or better like this?
Yeah.
Better like this?
Nope. Yeah, where you got it right now.
Better like where I have it right now? This is good? You like this? Okay. Down the same direction? Like this? Even more? Like this?
Yeah. Yes.
Like this?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
There you go.
Luckily, I don't do that very often, so it must not be a problem.
No. Thank goodness. Oh, all right. What else we got going on here?
We can talk about Ron Johnson at the hearing yesterday, holding up his Bears harm sheet and cherry picking all of his data. He makes me crazy. He just grandstanded, and I'm going to do some sort of something.
Some sort of something?
Some sort of something, because he says the same thing over and over and over again, and all of the data that he's got there, if you don't actually look at it and understand what it means, I can understand why people would be like, oh, these people are getting harmed. They aren't. He's cherry picking data. He's using a system inappropriately. You can't use the raw data the way that he doesn't understand how to use this, and he's instead using it for political gain instead of actually to help people.
I see ABC actually fact checked him as well as RFK from yesterday. So yeah, we'll start with that in about 15 seconds.
Okay.
There are some lines that we use on this radio show that just ought to be on a loop someplace that gets said over and over again. Here comes one of them. I regret to inform you that Ron Johnson is doing Ron Johnson things once again, because the senior senator from Wisconsin was also part of the RFK Jr. hearing on Capitol Hill yesterday. I happened to miss that one. I did not even remember that Johnson was on that committee. I'd heard other parts of the testimony, and you reminded me that Ron Johnson was on the committee. And as I look here online, I see that not only was Robert Kennedy Jr. fact-checked by various sites, Ron Johnson had to be fact-checked because he loves to take a particular database, and even though he's been corrected for over 5 years now, he has such a perverted sense of what this database actually does. So can you describe the VAERS system, what he says, and what the real deal is?
The VAERS system is a vaccine adverse events reporting system. So anytime you get a vaccine and you have some sort of a thing happen to you, whether it's a fever or a reaction at the site or a blood clot or you die, All of those things get reported into this database. And then people look at the database and they investigate these things. So it is really just raw data. But what he has done is attributed anything that happens, any possible correlation to the vaccines. And you can't do that. It's raw data. So he's using data inappropriately. He's cherry picking data. He's using it as marketing material for political purposes instead of scientific material to actually help people. And it's so wrong. It's so harmful. And I'm really glad that ABC fact checked him, because all he did yesterday with his 5 minutes was grandstand about how terrible vaccines are. And apparently we're going to hear more about it next week in his committee when he's having some sort of a other meeting. We'll see. I know.
I just did exactly what Alicia put on YouTube. Ron Johnson is just sigh. because again, what you just explained is misrepresentation of the data in the VAERS system. He's been doing for years. And as much as I wish I had been elected to Congress, I wish you had been elected to Congress. One of the things that might have made us crazy is that yesterday, if I were to be sitting on that same committee, I would have simply talked over him and the chair would have ruled me out of order and everything else. But I would have said, I'm sorry, Senator, I'm not going to allow you to say unfettered these things that you know are not true. And I know it's your 5 minutes of questioning, Senator, and this time is supposed to be your own, but you cannot spread falsehoods that have literally killed people as you have talked them out of taking the COVID vaccine. You cannot do this. And he'd continue to try to lie about it. And that would be a public service on my part, but that's more work. That's more work than I want to do for Ron Johnson.
This has been his defining issue. This is the thing that people are going to remember him for, spreading this false information that literally killed people. And I guess if I hadn't been in a situation where I've known people who have taken care of people who have taken advice from Ron Johnson and discovered way too late that Ron Johnson was not a reliable source, and it cost them permanent damage, and it cost some of them their lives. For me, this feels like a justice issue. Like, he needs to stop this because he is literally harming and killing people by spreading this misinformation. So yeah, I'm going to be doing something. Probably one of my podcasts in the future is going to be about this, because we really need to get more information out there so people can decipher this information for themselves.
It's a very good point, because you do have the podcast. I'm glad you're here on this show doing it. You're still making videos for TikTok and Instagram Reels and Facebook that, again, people should be sharing. And the reason I bring this up is when there's misinformation out there, there are certain folks that have no problem sharing that and spreading that bad information. And I think far too few people see the good information, the fact-based stuff that maybe you put out, and they go, thank you, Kristin. Thanks for doing that. They'll click on the little heart. Don't just click on the little heart. Click on the little arrow to share it.
Please.
Or repost it or something. And don't just keep it to yourself. We need people more than ever to be combating misinformation, not by getting into the comment section necessarily. If you don't want to mix it up with somebody, that's fine. Take what you know is credible information and share it. Get it out there.
Or do ask questions. I'm happy to answer questions. And, to be very clear, nobody pays me for this. I get paid $0 for my participation in your show or all the social media stuff that I do. Like, I truly do it because I am trying to get good information out there for people. Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's have these conversations so that we all have the information that we need so we can live our healthiest lives.
Yeah. Let me, while we're talking about podcasts, clarify one other thing. I mentioned it once in the show, and I'm just going to mention it one more time, that Kirk Bangstad, with whom we have done a podcast together in the past prior to this radio show. It was called the Up North Podcast as part of my shameless attempt to, do marketing for Up North News. But since that time, Kirk is concentrated on Minocqua Brewing Company. But yesterday announced that he's going to go back and resume podcasting, and he's going to call it the Up North Podcast. And that's fine. Again, Kristin and I both were parts of it, years back. But the Up North podcast that he'll be doing through the Minocqua Brewing Company is not affiliated with Up North News or this program. Mornings with Pat Kreitlow, powered by Up North News, and that, people will go off in their own directions and do other things. Kristin, you've got your own great little weekly radio show now, and so I'm not passing judgment on any of these things, just to say, be sure you know the difference between all these things, including the Dr. Kristin Lyerly show that you got to go find on the weekends.
That's right. Wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, so do that. I really hope the recovery gets easier and you get speedier and you're out there biking a Lambeau Field again before too much longer.
You just wait. I'll show up outside your house because you live so close to that bike trail. Oh, Pat, you're in trouble.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
I'll have a cold one ready for you. Thank
Okay.
you, Kristin. All right. Talk to you later. When we come back, Mike Clemens will be along, and we will talk about the upcoming Packer season opener and how the Brewers are doing as well, hitting the road this week for Pittsburgh. I'm Pat Kreitlow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. I was like, are you really going to call it that again? But all right, that's, that's
Kirk is Kirk.
It's a generic sounding name. So I jumped on his Facebook post about it and right away clarified, and he texted back like, apologizing. And it's like, no, I'm not mad about it. I just want to make sure people are clear on the difference. That's all. So,
I mean, what actually is up north? This is an opportunity for us to define up north.
Yes, exactly.
It's up.
Well, hey, the Civic Media just divided themselves into a North region and a South region. You know? Yeah. And so like Wausau is in the North region. Eau Claire is in the South region. But Chippewa Falls, so up north begins right here on Lake Wissota. This is it.
What is Green Bay?
Green, but well, see, the up north line, it kind of gets all fuzzy somewhere past Wausau, because you got that whole Great Lakes, Green Bay thing going on. So where do Green Bay folks go when they want to be up north?
Oconto.
Yeah, Oconto. That's Oconto is up north. I like it.
It depends. Are you fancy? Then you go to Door County. Otherwise, maybe Minocqua. Who knows?
Yes. Yeah. Good point.
Eagle River.
Mm-hmm. All right. Feel better, and we'll talk a little later on.
Have a good weekend.
Okay. Bye. So, what are we thinking here with Dom and everything? Are we okay? Okay. Yep. There he is. Okay. All right. Let's bring him in, and let's see if Mike can hear us. All right, Mike, are you out there? Good morning.
Hi, Pat.
Oh, good. We're here, and you're hearing me fine, so that's good.
Yes, sir.
All right, very nice. So we got 3 minutes left in the break, but of course we're still live on Facebook and YouTube. But I'm going to ask you this off air really quick anyway, and then I'll ask you on air because it's your first thing here. But what the hell was the Jalen Carter thing?
It's the start of the game. There's an injured player after the opening kickoff, and the Cowboys are standing around waiting for the whistle to blow, and they're going to call their play. And then you see Jalen Carter walk up near that Cowboys huddle, and then all of a sudden a ref throws a flag and turns on his microphone and says, 98's thrown out of the game, ejected from the game. And so the NBC zooms in and they see Jalen Carter spitting on Prescott.
But why? That's
a huge loogie. You want me to tell you why when we get on live?
Yeah, I was going to say. So we do know there is an answer why, right? Or it's not a mystery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
We'll get into that. Then.
I didn't get to bed until 1 a.m, Pat. I stayed. They had a 1 hour rain delay in this thing last night too, lightning. So yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I'm working on about a 3-hour nap here.
Oh man. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Mike. See you in a bit. You found it. You found the Weisenheimers. The Weisenheimers and the song "Go You Packers Go." And yeah, for folks on YouTube, we're sorry, there are copyright issues when it comes to music and things like that. So sometimes you can't hear the music because otherwise YouTube will penalize you for it, even though we have a broadcast license for music. But social media sites are a little funny that way. For the rest of you, yes, you were hearing the Weisenheimers, "Go You Packers Go," which I don't think we hear nearly enough. I love that song. Okay. No, that totally works for me. So we've got the season opener for the Packers that's going to be coming up here, but it's part of a football season that is already underway. It got underway under unusual circumstances, to put it mildly. And so let's bring in Mike Clemens now to talk about the kickoff of the NFL season, and then we'll get into the Packers as well. Mike, good morning. How are you?
Wow, Pat, I didn't know that about the streaming and the licensing rights. I know what you can and can't do, but that means we can't pay the Dupers and the Bears still suck when they take on Chicago.
Oh, we'll play it for the radio audience. We just have to sometimes let our social media audience know. They
We'll
might not
figure
hear
it out. Yeah,
We'll
I'm
do
I'm
it. Yep.
I'm a little tired this morning. I stayed up to watch Thursday night football. The NFL season kicked off last night in Philadelphia, and the defending champions, the Eagles, take on their arch rival in the division, the Cowboys. And the Eagles ended up winning the game 24-20. Cowboys actually had a pretty good showing. The
Yeah.
run defense held up. Saquon Barkley held to 60 yards. Actually, the Eagles quarterback, Jalen Hurts, had a couple more yards and scored 2 touchdowns. He had 62 yards rushing. But just as the game is getting started, they have the opening kickoff, and a player gets injured. So during this injury timeout, Dak Prescott, the quarterback of the Cowboys, is standing there with his linemen. And then you see Jalen Carter.
Mhm.
They're the huge 314-pound defensive lineman that was a first-round pick, controversial pick for the Eagles. But this guy just wrecks offenses. It's part of the reason they won the Super Bowl. He walks up to the Cowboys huddle, and something happens, and then you see the refs throw a flag, and then turn on the microphone and say, 98 is suspended from the game. He gets ejected. So they zoom in, and Mike Tirico's there with Chris Collingsworth, and they're looking at the tape, and you see Jalen Hurts spit on Dak Prescott, and it lands on his right on his chest. I mean,
We're watching that.
loogie.
We're watching that at one of our local watering holes, and we're like, did that just happen? And
Yes.
so I guess I wonder, because we didn't know at the time, and of course we're just reading closed captioning, and so we never got an answer at the time. Do we know why Jalen Carter decided to do this?
Well, yeah. I mean, it just totally changes, sort of the defensive scheme, for the Eagles and for. I mean, just how dumb can you be?
Right.
So then there's a 1 hour lightning delay. They had a thunderstorm roll through Philadelphia, so that both teams have to leave the field in the third quarter. They come back, and then late at night, Jason Garrett, the former Cowboy head coach, he now works for NBC, right?
Mhm.
So he's down in the field, and hey, Dak, come over here. What was that all about? And then Dak told him, and then Jason went up to the booth, radioed up to the booth like, hey, look for this tape again. And son of a gun, NBC had the tape. So before you saw Jalen Carter walk up to the Cowboys huddle and spit on Dak, before that, Dak had his, semi-huddle waiting for the injury timeout. And so he decides to spit. So he spits over the shoulders of his offensive lineman. Well, it lands into that territory between the two huddles. But Jalen Carter takes offense to that. So he walks back. He walks over to Prescott. What? So he returns the spit. Only this one lands on Prescott. He does it in front of all these refs, and that's how he gets ejected from the game. And that's how we kick off the 25 season in the NFL.
That's even dumber than anything I would have imagined. That it's literally a spitting fight, a spitball fight.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
thank goodness the NBC cameraman, they had that all on tape. They caught it. They had to look it up to say, oh, look at that. And then they zoomed in, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh yeah. So
Wow.
it was magic loogies all night long in the game.
And I get that it's a division rivalry. I get that. Even though the Cowboys, I mean, they've got the longest drought, right, without going to a conference championship game. But apparently, it's still a heated enough rivalry that apparently means something. I was surprised to see the Cowboys looking, like they did. They don't look all that bad, even without Micah Parsons. Now that he's a Packer, and Kenny Clark went over to the Cowboys. Is he playing with them already?
Yeah, he got plenty of snaps last night. He's changed to a number 95 jersey, and he was lying up there off the left guard of the Eagles. So, yeah, the Cowboys to go on the road and do that and not get blown out. I'm sure that Jerry's spinning that this morning on the Dallas radio station, saying, "Hey, look, we've got a shot here."
Well, that's the other thing. We were thinking we were, getting the best of Jerry Jones and what a screw up, to get rid of Micah Parsons, et cetera, et cetera. And now we see that he's got a potential back issue here. And what do we think? Is Micah going to be ready to play this Sunday against the Lions?
Yeah, so I didn't get a chance to talk to you last Friday, but so here's what happens. There had been this drama all summer long between Micah Parsons and Jerry Jones in getting a new contract. And at the end of the day, the Parsons apparently his agent even called the Cowboys 2 days out and said, "Okay, can we renegotiate this?" And the response from the Cowboys was, "No. We're at this point, we're just going to go to the 5th year. What he's already under contract for, and then we'll revisit it." So that's when they said, "Okay, then let's talk about a trade." The Packers slipped in. They gave up 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark, which was a gut punch to them.
Yeah.
But they pulled off that trade. And every analyst, every former GM that does these networks now says that's ridiculous. I mean, the Cowboys could have easily said, and while you're at it, throw in a 3rd-round pick too. At least, because Micah Parsons disrupts these offenses with his pass rush, better than anybody. A generational player, as they call him. So last Thursday, about 1 o'clock, I started telling some of our civic media producers, because I saw some network activity, and I'll just leave it at that. I said, "Hey, keep an eye on Adam Schefter, okay? Keep an eye on this." Now I'm in a press conference at 4 o'clock with Mark Murphy, the outgoing president. He retired back in July because he's about to be inducted into the Packer Hall of Fame. So it's 4 o'clock, and when this thing gets started, and a little after 4 o'clock, one of the people standing behind a camera says, "Mark, the ESPN's reporting that the Packers are traded for the Cowboys' Micah Parsons." And Mark giggled like, "Oh, no, I believe that when I hear it. Has it been confirmed? No, it's probably AI." So they take more questions about his career and his years, in Green Bay. And then one of his trusted reporters that covers the team business sports, Rich from the Press Gazette, says, "Mark, the Press Gazette's now confirming that trade." And Mark's jaw drops and he goes, "What'd they get for him?" So this means he's been out of the office a month. And he's in disbelief. Like, what are these guys doing? I've been gone a month, and what did you trade away to get this Micah Parsons guy? And then over the weekend, this report comes out. He claimed that he had a back injury, which is why he was not participating in camp. And so yesterday, they brought out Micah and, a bunch of us. And I'm from Beloit, man. Pat, if you walk in the studio with a cast on your arm, I'm going to say, "Well, how'd you do that, dummy?" Right?
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
all these reporters around him, and after a couple of questions, I said, "So how did this happen?" And I sent you guys that tape. And he said, and I thought about this for 2 or 3 days. I thought about this because they're putting out reports that, it's the L4 and the L5 and a strain. He may have to have an epidural or painkiller injection before the game. And J.J. Watt says, "Hey, it's a back injury. We all have back injuries." And that's true. There's a lot of guys that have to get a painkiller before the game. And when I see Jordan Love walk by every other day, he's got all those suction cup marks on his back from the training room. Sore backs are a normal thing in football, especially in NFL. And Micah said, "Yeah, I was weightlifting during the Cowboys training camp. I overdid it. It was an accident. I probably made a mistake there. Felt a little tweak in my back. And so we've been taking care of it. I've just finished up a steroid program, and I hope to be out there on Sunday afternoon."
Okay. So it wasn't some pre-existing thing that Jerry Jones is getting the last laugh in the sense that
Right.
it was some kind of a weight room thing, but now still, I mean,
Here's one other reminder too, because I know that Brian Gutekunst, the GM of the Packers, thinks about tradition and the lessons learned. Remember, once upon a time that Ron Wolf was going to trade away a first-round pick for a third-string quarterback out of Atlanta, and before he signed the contract, he went through a physical, and the doctors went to Ron and said, "This guy's got the same degenerative hip disease that ended Bo Jackson's career. You might get a year, 2 years out of this guy at most." He goes, "I've seen now how the guy can throw. Sign him." And that was Brett Favre.
Okay. Well, again, sometimes you got to go with your gut. But getting back to the back, and I'm not switching gears to the Brewers yet here, but when I hear back, and I right away think of Kristin Lyerly and how many games he missed last year, and now he's got a sore back this week. So when I hear this about Micah Parsons, I'm like, okay, so let's just say cautiously optimistic. Pre-game coverage begins at 1:00 on several Civic Media stations. Let's jump over to the Badgers. They're going to be hosting Middle Tennessee. Again, coverage begins Saturday at 1:00 on several Civic Media stations with the starting quarterback, Billy Edwards Jr., went out with a knee last week. What's his status?
Yeah, for the third year in a row, Luke Fickell's lost his starting quarterback to some kind of an injury. This kid's got his knee sprain, so he's going to be week to week. So Danny O'Neill, who I thought did a pretty good job filling in the 17-0 win over Miami of Ohio, he's likely going to get to start tomorrow. He did a pretty good job of moving the ball for the team. And the Badgers did. I mean, they should have been a bigger blowout, but their defense did show up. I mean, they've got that Preston Zachman kid at safety who had 2 legit interceptions and was named the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. So that's the kind of game we'll be looking for from Camp Randall tomorrow afternoon.
All right. And then finally, let's jump to the Brewers. They dropped 2 out of 3 to the Phillies. They got shut out yesterday, and they're on the road already to play Pittsburgh tonight to take on the Pirates. And the pregame there begins at, what time did I say? 5:05. There it is, across the stations on the Civic Media Radio Network. And how are we feeling now after dropping 2 to the Phillies?
Both those teams, the Phillies and the Brewers, the 2 best offensive teams in the majors right now. But the thing that's a little concerning is that Shelby Miller, a veteran arm that they brought in the bullpen, he felt something go in his elbow. He's looking at perhaps his second Tommy John surgery. Doesn't know if he's going to do it at 35 years old. He'd be 36 if he came back from that. So, Pat Murphy loses that. And then there's another pitcher to be named that is waiting on an MRI this morning that might be placed on IL as well. So, but the good news is this is what Murphy's been dealing with all year. They've got a large group of guys between guys down in Nashville and the ones that they already have up, and at least the Pirates aren't a very good team. They should be able to pick up some wins this weekend until they figure out what's next and how soon they get back Trevor McGill, the closer, etc.
Yeah, I mean, next man up has always been kind of their mantra. Who's next, and they've had a good nose for talent despite all the injuries to the pitching staff this year. It has worked out so far. We just you got to make the magic last for about another month or so, 6 weeks here. Mike Clemens, thank you so much for, as always, our Friday morning sports update. Have a great weekend. Get some rest.
You too. Thank you, Pat.
All right. Appreciate you very much. Again, the Civic Media Radio Network has got all kinds of sports. I haven't even gotten into the high school sports. Your local station may have some games to play as well. Check on the website, civicmedia.us. Head to your local station's homepage and get a fix not only on high school sports, but your local news there as well, civicmedia.us. Some final news and notes from Lake Wissota coming up next. I'm Pat Kreitlow. You're up north. All right. Thanks, Dom. Appreciate it.
See you guys later. Yep.
I will be back. One more time for Free Ticket Friday. You've got just over 6 minutes to text the word BASE, B-A-S-E, for your first entry of the day into Free Ticket Friday. You can enter multiple times today. There will be keywords throughout the day. Listen for them. Use the Civic Media app to text in those keywords. And then of all the day's entries, one will be chosen to win 4 tickets to the Brewers taking on the St. Louis Cardinals at American Family Field next week, Saturday, the 13th, 7:15 p.m. is first pitch. And you have to be able to get and use tickets on your phone. These are great club level seats, so worth your while if you have a chance of going to the game to text the word BASE before 9 o'clock this morning. You can sign up for our newsletters over at upnorthnews.wi.com, including the Sunday morning newsletter I put together, which is kind of a roundup of political news from the week. And then there's a question of the week as well. And I wanted to share the results here of this past Sunday's question because it was so noteworthy. And I was not necessarily looking for it to be one-sided. I definitely wanted to see what's the range of opinions out there. And it's about dreamers, the nickname given to children who were brought to this country by their parents who came here as undocumented immigrants to work hard, give their family a better life, to be safe, and so forth. This is the only country they've ever known. They've gone to school here. They've become part of the workforce here, but they are not citizens. Their parents are not citizens. And they, by and large, don't even have a path to citizenship because of, coming here as young kids with their parents who are undocumented. So the question was, should dreamers have a path to citizenship, or should they be deported from the only country that they've ever known? Now, our newsletter goes out at 6 a.m. on Sundays. And one of the very first responses, and I want to check the timestamp on this, 6:28 in the morning, so it was among the first wave of them, was from somebody named Kurt. And the answer was, round them up and send them back. If you're not born in the U.S., you're here illegally, period. And, well, first off, again, people want to make this sound like you've committed some kind of a heinous felony coming here. It's not. It's a civil forfeiture and hardly worth drawing guns on somebody who simply came across the border. But we have a faction in this country, for either xenophobic or blatantly racist reasons, has that kind of a mentality. So that was one of the first answers that came in. Here are the results, though. That's the one person who chose option B, send them back. We had 187 responses that were sent back. Out of the 187 responses, 185 of them said A, dreamers deserve a path to citizenship. So the final tally was 185 to 2. There was Kurt, and there was one other email here that simply said B, and that was it. And the writings that come along with these, sure, a lot of them just say A or whatever the case may be, but so many people decide to add a little bit more to it. And I really wanted to share some of that with you. There's John here who said, dreamers had no choice in entering the U.S. By every other standard, they are productive members of our society. The U.S. is their home. They should have a clear and expedited path to citizenship. Let's see, there's Nancy who said they've become valuable members of our society and should be able to become citizens. Any criminals should be prosecuted, which, again, I made clear in the question of the week. If they've been law abiding, then, why would you be using our resources to round up people and deport them when they've simply been here existing and working and actually wanting to be contributing members to American society? Let's see, from Catherine, whatever happened to the words on the Statue of Liberty? Trump's anchor babies should be deported. If Trump, uses crime as a stipulation, then we could deport our own homegrown criminals. I am so tired of what Trump and his cult are doing to America. The money they are wasting on confinement centers could be put to better use. Most of these people are just hardworking people trying to have a better life. So sad. From Anna, let them stay here, and for goodness sake, help them understand the path to citizenship. We need to remember that we were once seen as the best place to come for a better life. We should not be deporting children of undocumented immigrants. We should be helping them all toward naturalization and citizenship. And again, it gets back to this very core notion of reforming immigration. And what so many people seem to be afraid to say, I'm not afraid to say it. There has never been a more critical time in our lifetimes for reforming and encouraging immigration than right now, as the baby boomers, are exiting the scene. As my generation, early Gen X, is starting to think about retirement, and we don't have nearly the numbers here to maintain the labor force that we have, the services, the economy. We are absolutely dependent upon reforming immigration, providing a path to citizenship for the people who are here and all the people who want to come here, instead of demonizing them for, like I said, all kinds of reasons, some of them based in politics or the economy, others just terribly based in personal qualities that I don't really even want to get into. But this is what we need right now. And we almost had it. We almost had a bipartisan package that would have reformed immigration, would have strengthened border security. And Donald Trump not only blew it up during the campaign, thanks to the obsequiousness of all kinds of toadies in Congress that would just go along, but has now unleashed troops and unleashed federal law enforcement to round up all sorts of folks whose only crime is being here and working hard and trying to make a better life for their family. That's what we're using our resources on right now, when we're not cutting health care to everybody else to pay for tax cuts for the rich. And it's a shame. But I really appreciate all the answers that came in. We'll have a new question of the week coming up this Sunday. Head to upnorthnewswi.com. Sign up for our newsletters there. Thanks so much for being part of our week here, our short work week. Hope you've had a good recovery from the Labor Day weekend. Have another good weekend just ahead. We'll see you back here bright and early Monday morning, 6 a.m. here up north.